Alrighty, I believe we are live, and this is going to be a very fun live to everyone joining us tonight because, as you all can see, I'm not alone. I have my own MI team with me here today. As you all can see, my man Griff and Sharonda from Pay Your Weight and Griff from Film Speak. We're going to introduce them here in a bit, but before we do so, y'all, this is a Mission Impossible tier list slash ranking. We'll be kind of individually giving our thoughts and where we put the films on our personal list. And then together, we'll try to come up with our team list of where we're going to rank these films as far as a tier list goes. So it's going to be a fun time. And I'm really excited to see for Sharonda and Griff where these films land on their list because we mostly have revisited the most recent ones or the older ones prior to the new one coming out. So it's going to be cool to kind of get their thoughts on this franchise and all the films in the franchise. But enough of that being said, let me go ahead and introduce my guests as you all can see on the screen, starting with Griff, man. How are you doing, my friend? And are you going to accept this mission? Try to get these films on this list, Griff.
I'll accept it. I don't know if everyone's ready for my really horrendous Mission Impossible takes.
We're here for it, man.
I'm ready, dude. Yeah, let's do it. No, thank you for having me. It's always a good time when we can chat movies and all that good stuff.
Of course, man. Well, hey, Griff, if this is the first time someone's watching you, hearing your name, why don't you introduce yourself as far as where they can find your content and what is it that you do so wonderfully on the YouTube space?
Yeah, so I run the Film Speak channel, or you could follow me on Twitter at Griff Schiller for more horrible takes. But yeah, I do video essays and stuff of that nature. I have one coming out on Dead Reckoning Part 1 in the next day or so. So you can look forward to my very in-depth and complicated thoughts about that movie. And so if you like a little bit more of a deep dive into, the latest in film and TV and all that good stuff, check out the Film Speak channel.
Definitely, man. And Griff's links can be found in the description of this very video. And he's being very modest, y'all. He has incredible breakdowns on his YouTube channel. And so glad to have him on to hear his thoughts of this franchise in tonight's live stream. This next guest here, you've probably seen her. You love her just like we do. The best interviewer, the best content creator out there on all the platforms. So excited to have her back on the channel. I'm talking about the one and only Sharonda from Pay Your Weight. Sharonda, how are we doing on this evening?
I'm real good. I adulted. I worked out and then cheated on my diet. And then, we're here.
Listen. You're my hero, Sharon. I'm looking up to you. We talked about it a couple days ago or so. I'm trying to get back on my workout game. You know what I'm saying? Trying to eat better and whatnot. You're motivating me, Sharonda. So I would definitely take in your lead. But Sharonda, why don't you introduce yourself to the people at home and let them know where they can find your amazing content?
Hello, people out there. I am Sharonda Williams. I have a channel called Pay Your Weight. Tell you, should you pay for it or should you wait for it? And you can find me on social at Pay or Wait. I don't know what else I'm supposed to do, but just subscribe, whatever you guys do.
Do it all. Like, subscribe, follow. Again, great interviews she's covered on her platforms, great reviews. She does some really fun, some of the funnest interactive live streams out there that I have a good time watching whenever I get a chance to check it out. So before we get into it, this is a little fun little moment for me here because I doubt you all remember this because it was so long ago. But I want to say, Griff, it was about 3 years ago. You used to do a live stream, talking on movie news and whatnot. And the very first time I collaborated with Griff and Sharonda was on that stream. So for me, ladies and gentlemen at home, this is like a monumental moment for me because I have these two incredible people and two great platform content creators talking about this franchise with me tonight. So, I'm trying to hold back the tears, y'all, because this is a very big moment to have these two great people on the channel. I don't know if y'all remember that. I don't know.
No, I do. I totally do because I remember we used to. Well, yeah, when I did more live stuff, I remember you and I would do after shows and stuff. I know Sharonda, you and I also did some stuff, and so no, of course I remember that. Yeah. That's awesome.
It's a big moment, guys.
Is this really the first time all three of us have been together on your channel?
Yeah, I believe so, Griff. I've had Sharonda on before, I've had you on before, but never us, the trio here, man. Wow. So this is awesome. I'm really excited to have you guys on and to talk about this franchise, man. And shout out to everyone in the chat, Frankie, Cassandra. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's gonna be fun, guys. And while you're coming in, hit the like, hit the share, all that good stuff. More importantly, subscribe to Sharonda and my man's Griff channel. All the links can be found in the description of this video. So I'm gonna start with you, Sharonda. Before we get into our list and the tier list and all that stuff, when were you first introduced to Mission Impossible, and what was the first Mission Impossible film you personally saw in theaters?
MI2 was the first Mission Impossible film.
Ooh, you started off spicy.
Off with MI2.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't think I saw Mission Impossible in theaters, but I know I definitely saw Mission Impossible 2 in theaters with my
Yeah.
parents. So yeah, I don't know what year I actually watched the first one, but eventually I saw it because it was
Right.
on TV. But
Yeah.
yeah, two, that whole
MI2.
camp film, yeah. I was living when Tom had the little silk vibe, had the hair.
Yeah.
Well, yes, that did.
The bicycle battle with Mr. John Woo. That's a very interesting way to be introduced to the franchise, and to see that in film. Do you remember that, seeing that in theaters when you were younger, seeing that with your parents? Do you remember, like, you were like blind, mind blown? Just do you remember that time when you saw it in theaters?
Oh, honey, I ate that entire movie up. First of all, we had a black woman in
Yeah.
the whole film. Their
Yeah.
chemistry was like off the charts the whole time. So I was excited to see Thandaway in it, and then Tom had the hair, and then who was the villain? What was his name? Is it Dougray or
Dougray, is it Dougray Scott?
yeah?
Is that what it is?
So,
Yeah.
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 Which I just, if you guys haven't ever watched Ever After, like go watch that because that's when I fell in love with him. But yeah,
Okay.
definitely should watch that. But yeah, I was living. Okay, that was the time to be alive, to be a movie fan, to see that in theaters. That was everything.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Griff, same question for you, man. What was your first introduction to this franchise, and do you remember the first time you saw one of these films in theaters?
I know the first one that I saw in theaters was Ghost Protocol, because that
Oh,
was like
wow.
it was like the big IMAX Max thing. But I had seen, I don't remember. I feel like the first one was the first one that I watched, but it was like on home video and stuff like that.
Mm.
It was either that one or it was MI3. It was one of the two. I actually didn't see MI2 until like much later
wow.
for some reason, because I think it was just because everyone said it was like horrible, so I was just like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm just not gonna watch it. But yeah, I remember when I was like younger, I was obsessed with MI3. I really liked that movie. Yeah, I remember like buying the. I actually remember in like, this is weird, in fifth grade, because I think it like came out the same year as Revenge of the Sith, was it? Or it was like around that time?
For the third one?
Yeah, for the third one. It was something around that time. I remember
2006,
like
2006.
it was 2006. Okay,
Yeah,
so it
yeah.
was the next year. I just remember like having a class with someone, and this guy was like really excited about like some of the stuff that happened in that movie. I was like, oh shit, okay, I guess I gotta like watch it. Like, I'm just like a kid at this time, like I don't know anything. And so yeah, that I bought the DVD, and like I really loved that third one. Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny you bring that up. So to answer my own question, that was the first time I actually was introduced to the I knew about the franchise. I was a Tom Cruise fan, but I never really dove into the franchise until Mission Impossible 3, which was in 2006. And the reason I remember being like excited about it and hyped about it, because back in the day, I used to watch, a lot of 106 in Park on BET. And they had Tom Cruise on 106 in Park with it was a Kanye West song that he was part of the soundtrack. It was like Kanye West and Keisha Cole and Tom Cruise was on stage at 106 in Park. I'm like,
what the
did
hell?
you all remember that at all? This was for Mission Impossible 3. When Kanye had his song with Keisha Cole, you remember that?
No.
We're free
That
and
is
agent.
so
They
wild. Yeah,
were
I don't
promoting that film. Tom Cruise was on 106 in Park. They were like they weren't in the studio. They were like, they had a separate stage promoting it. So I'm like, yo, because I was a big 106 in Park fan, BET fan back in the day. And I was like, I got to see what this franchise is all about. So that was my entry point to seeing a Mission Impossible film. First time in theaters. And then obviously leading up to it coming out in theaters, I had watched 1 and 2 to catch myself up. And ever since then, I've been a fan. And again, yeah, Mission Impossible 3 was my first time being introduced to this franchise. And like I said, never looked back since then. So with that being out of the way, and all those watching live on the replay, let us know your mission story. What was the film that got you introduced to the franchise? What was the first one you actually saw in theaters? Let us know in the comments. And also, Griff, to your point about maybe Ghost Protocol, I remember that one particular because it was either Dark. I think it was Dark Knight Rises. The
Yeah, they had
promotion for
the
that was
yeah.
see like the first 9 minutes of the opening scene. If you see Mission Impossible, it was might have been the other way around. So I remember going to Navy Pier and seeing it just because I wanted to. It was either Mission. It was see Mission Impossible to see Dark Knight Rises, or see
Yeah, that's
Dark
what it
Knight
was.
Rises to see Mission Impossible. One or the other. But
yeah, it was the
yeah,
yeah, because Dark Knight Rises was 2012. MI Ghost
Protocol was
Protocol was
2011. Yep, so it would have
2011.
been,
Yeah, so it was yeah.
go see
I
Mission to
remember
see
that.
the first the Bane opening sequence on the
Yep.
plane. So with all that being said, Geronda and Griff, are y'all ready to accept? Well, first I gotta go ahead and do the introduction. Are you ready to accept the mission? If you choose to accept this mission, Geronda, are you gonna accept this mission to come up with a tier list together with me, you, and Griff?
I accept.
You accept?
Give us like a little riddle before, but I'm gonna let it slide.
Yeah.
Griff, are you
What
accepting
if
this
I
mission,
choose
man?
not to accept it? Are you going to back me into a corner and make it seem like I have no choice? Because that seems to be what they do when you don't want to accept the
pretty
choice.
pretty
Yeah,
much, Griff.
yeah.
Yeah, you gotta accept this mission.
Yeah,
It's
all right,
a
yeah.
given. So with that, those watching at home, what we're going to do this tonight is I have the creative tier list with all 7 films, of course, including the new one. We're going to come and agree or disagree, debate on which, and I have the breakdown here. Let me share the screen so you guys can see what I'm referring to. So I have it broken down to the best mission of the mission. So cream of the crop, number 1, doesn't get any better. Then we have a great mission, right? It's not perfect, but it's still like it encapsulates all the things we love about the franchise, great performances, great, mission, all that stuff, action. Then we have the kind of that middle of the ground, kind of that solid. It was a solid mission. Didn't quite hit the highs of the franchise, but it didn't hit the lows. So it's kind of right in the middle. And then the rest is just, not the best, not terrible, but it could have. It's so much potential that was left on the cutting room floor, or left, with the story or whatever the case may be. And then the last one is just a very bad mission, bad, terrible story, terrible acting, just wasn't for us. So that's kind of the breakdown here. So as we'll individually go over these films, we'll also share our personal ranking of where that particular film might land on our individual list, from 1 being the best and then 7 obviously being the worst. So with that, it's only fitting that we start with the original Mission Impossible, 1996. My goodness, May 22nd. Brian De Palma came with a Mission Impossible film that, to me, and I'll just kind of start where I think this should go, and then we'll give our rankings of the film. This one seems so much different than the other Mission films. Just from the mission itself is like, we got to get a thumb drive with the names on the thumb drive. And it's, it wasn't built around this, these amazing stunts and all the action. It was like an actual spy espionage thriller story that I found to be very captivating, especially after revisiting it a couple weeks ago. So on my personal list of this tier, and we'll get Griffin and Sharonda's thoughts on this in a second, I think this would be considered a great mission, in my opinion. And then on my personal rankings list, I have it here. Let me pull it up. Probably should have had this up a little bit earlier. Where's my list? Well, Griff, while I'm looking at my list, I have it right now, I had it as a great mission.
Yeah.
What say you on this tier list for the first Mission Impossible film?
Yeah, I agree with you. I love this movie. I definitely don't think it's like the best of the best, because the plot is absurdly convoluted. It like genuinely takes like at least 3 viewings before it actually makes sense. Like the fact that this whole thing happens in like a weird internet chat room sort of thing, that it is a very 90s movie. And that's okay, but it definitely dates it a bit. But that being said, the espionage of it all is really intriguing. This movie does not work without Brian De Palma. Like, it's first and foremost a Brian De Palma film. And I think what helps separate this movie from other spy films is the fact that because it's made by Brian De Palma, we get a more like seedy look at spycraft. It's not like the glamorous kind of globetrotting adventure that we're used to seeing with something like James Bond or whatever. And it's definitely not like the original TV series, which was, I think, a big reason why people did not like this film at the time, especially, spoiler alert, with Phelps, the main character of that TV show, is the villain in this in this movie, which I actually thought that was pretty brilliant, but I get why people would be kind of taken aback by it. But it's very like trenched in like the voyeurism and like this weird like the kind of less than glamorous and gross things people have to do in order to accomplish missions. And I think that's that is a story that only Brian De Palma could have excelled at. There's a lot of just like weird, creepy sexual tension going on here. Like even Phelps as a villain, like is just kind of a very he's just kind of a gross antagonist, and like that specifically when he's talking about like, you know, his wife and it's like having tasted the goods. It's just like Claire, it's like, oh god, it's like really really gross. And I will say, I think that out of all of the movies, like while there are better films on this list, this is the film that I think utilizes Ethan Hunt the best as a character. Brian De Palma understood that like Tom Cruise is a good actor, but he's kind of a weirdo too, and that's why he works really well like in this role, because Ethan Hunt is like, he's not this knight in shining armor. Like it's pretty obvious from the get-go that he cares about his team and all of that, but he's, you know, he's kind of a he's a little bit of an ass, but he's also a little bit of a creepy guy, not like super creepy, but there is like like the voyeurism of it all. So that just with like the actual world of espionage, and obviously the train sequence and the CIA break-in, those are like iconic, genuinely tense and thrilling moments. So it's a great mission. I think they botched the twist a little bit by revealing it a little too early.
30 minutes before.
Yeah, that's just it's like, it's not like I can get over it, but it is just one of those things mixed with the convoluted like plot that keeps it from being like at the very top.
I hear you. Sharonda, what say you with Mr. Young Ethan Hunt, who to me, Tom Cruise, he was kind of giving off a little Maverick relentlessness to his approach to the mission, but then obviously things kind of kick in gear when he loses his team, which out of all the films, Sharonda, this is maybe one of the more darker ones, because he literally, this whole team, and by the way, guys, if you haven't seen these films, we're going to be spoiling each one, but his team dies after their first mission, which is pretty shocking, especially if you're seeing it for the first time. So, Sharonda, on this list, where do you have it as far as cream of the crop, best of the best, kind of in the middle, maybe at the bottom? What say you?
No, I think it's a great mission, and I think it kind of segues into what Ethan's Achilles heel is for the rest of the franchise. Like, you know, go through this journey of him losing his entire team. Especially because if he would have just took a step back and really thought things through. Because watching this movie, you know who the villain is, literally to the movie. It's so obvious that I can't even believe that we still have like an hour and a half left of the film because we know who did it. But I think it does a really great job of establishing why Ethan rides or dies for his team. And why he would do anything to protect his friends, because he couldn't protect them in the first one.
That's such a great point. Yeah.
I love that this just showcases that less is more. You know, one of the most iconic scenes is literally my man's just trying not to touch the ground.
Oh, Sharon, that scene.
It's so good.
No score, no music. It's just so tense, Sharonda. I love this scene so much.
Think about that entire, like, the sweat that falls from the rat in the ventilator, the knife that falls at the end, like several heart attacks back to back. Like, that is how you should feel in a spy movie. Like you should, like you're on the mission with them. Like I'm gonna lose all the foolishness that they're doing. So
I love it.
I really think that it's such a great job in this movie that so much tension is built with doing the bare minimum. And think about it, it wasn't that much that they were doing.
No, simple.
That's the scene that sticks with you. Like, you'll always remember that portion of the movie. It's a true spy film. I think nothing's come close to the first one except for Rogue Nation of being an actual like true spy thriller, which is something that I think that the franchise is actually missing. But it was just nice to actually also see an ensemble that everybody is utilized as well. Like as we've gotten deeper into this franchise, people come for like a couple of minutes and they have like something to do. think about it, like Luther and all of them, like they had to march in like firemen, like they had to actually break it.
Actually be on the field.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think it was one of the few rare ones where everyone, like that is a true ensemble cast where
Yeah.
everyone
Yeah.
utilized from beginning to end. So I just feel like there is the little things that you appreciated. I feel like the first one gets so much flack. People rank it so low. Hey KB, I feel like
Oh, KB, hey.
people rank it so low for no reason, and I
Yeah.
that people like it's a very underrated film.
It is.
It is.
They get so
It
caught
really
up. I
is.
think people get like they remember how just like convoluted it is and like how many moving parts and like the Job 314, like the just like the absurd you know, techno jargon of it all, and they're all like, oh, that was like not a good movie. And then it's just like, no, this is like genuinely really thrilling. It like
Yeah.
uses like the cloak and dagger of spycraft really well, and like
Mhm.
oh my god, the low angle shots, the POV shots. Like I'm not even joking. The best scene out of this entire franchise is still when Ethan and Kittredge are having that conversation in the restaurant.
The restaurant, yeah.
It's so good because it's just two people talking and there's
Mhm.
tension, and it's like the CIA is going after his family, and there's like I know more about Ethan as a person from this film than I
From this
do any
original,
of the other
yeah.
films. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I couldn't agree. And I can't remember the gentleman's name, Sharon and Griff, from the tech guy that was going in and out of the room who had his bubble guts in the one mission. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the same guy is going to be in the part 8 or part 2 in the Mission Impossible 8. I
Oh,
think,
Dunlow, that guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think he's going to be back in the next one, if I'm not mistaken. I remember seeing his name somewhere on
Yeah.
the cast list of the next one. So, yeah, I couldn't agree with you guys more as far as, I think we all agree that the first mission is definitely a great mission. Sure, it doesn't have all the razzle dazzle as some of the other films in the franchise as far as the action department goes, but like Sharon and Griff said, it's a spy espionage at its core. It's a really interesting character that we get with Ethan, and of course, like Sharon said, we get to see the team actually, on the field, in the field, and being used on the mission. So I definitely agree with you all. I think it's completely underrated. But speaking of kind of the underratedness of it all, I guess that brings us to this next portion here. Starting with you, Sharonda, is our personal list. Where would you put this particular Mission Impossible, the original one, on your scale of 1 to 7? Where does it fall on your personal list?
3.
Number 3?
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Griff?
I actually had a recent change of heart on this. It was 3, but I think I bumped it up to 2.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have it 2.
Interesting. And on mine, let me just make sure I have my so not too far off from you guys. I'm gonna have it at 4 on my list here. So I think we'd all agree, very underrated. Doesn't get as much appreciation as it should, and it is hopefully we'll see. I doubt that they're gonna go back to the bare bones come 8, or if they continue this franchise, but who knows? Because I think there might be what we'll talk about, the entity might actually shut the technology down in the next one. They might have to go back to the bare minimum and go back to the basics. We'll see. It's kind of hard when you're spending $300 million on films and to level it down the next one. We'll see what comes of that. But let us know in the chat where you guys place this particular mission film, and also where is it on your personal list. So the next one here, I'm gonna start with you, Griff. Mission Impossible 2, which we all know is a very interesting film for a lot of us. This came out 4 years after the first one. We have a whole new director, a fantastic director with a very unique style and very vastly different from De Palma, and that is John Woo. Griff, I'm going to have you kick us off with the tier list here. Where do you think Mission Impossible 2 lands with chimera disease?
Chimera virus.
When I was little, I was like, is this an STD that they're talking about? It was
Probably.
I always thought about that. But to Sharada's point, Griff, when we kind of talked about her first film being Mission Impossible 2, I don't think we gotten as much, like, this is a sexual tension type of spy film. This is a relationship that we see this hero on, and it's just a lot going on. It's a lot of doves, Griff, a lot of doves. What say you, man, on this list of when Mission Impossible 2 should land?
Yeah. I my friend described it as like sinful, and I'm like, yes, that's the perfect way to describe it. It is, absolutely. If you had asked me like maybe 5 years ago or something, I probably would have put, I probably would have said this is like just straight up a bad movie. Back when I think I'm just like, I didn't really understand John Woo too much as a filmmaker. I thought that this was just stupid. But it's just like, I think right now I've actually become kind of a defender of it because I appreciate the style and like how different it is from the rest of the films here. And and like the John Woo of it all. So my hot take is that I would actually say that this is a solid mission for what it is.
Okay.
I think if you look at what they were trying, like, I think they smartly did not try to replicate what De Palma was doing at the time. I think, they got John Woo in there to take over, and the Bond franchise had actually tried to get John Woo for a little bit, and they couldn't work something out. And so I think John Woo goes over here and he kind of does a riff on a Bond film. Because as I was rewatching it the other day, a lot of this is like reminds me of GoldenEye, obviously the car chase, but even the way it starts, the relationship with Thandoi Newton and the villain basically just being like the evil version of Ethan. And the stunts, like I don't know, man, like I like how different this is, and we get like our introduction to Ethan as like the adrenaline junkie. I mean, this is like it's an absurdly early 2000s movie, but that's kind of like the time capsule of it all is sort of what I appreciate about it. And I think if you look at this as like a spiritual sequel to Face Off, it's a lot more easier to digest. And I think the best thing to me is that I will never get over the fact that they had Tom Cruise basically he does like the exact same thing that Daniel Day-Lewis does in The Last of the Mohicans, where he yells at like the female protagonist. He's like, "I will find you," and then he like leaps out of the building. It's so fucking ridiculous, man. It's so melodramatic, but I love it for that. Like that is it's that silly melodrama, the absurd slow-mo, the John Woo action, like the climax of this movie, the motorcycle chase, the fight on the beach, the getting your gun off, the doves, all of it. Dude, that shit rocks, man. That is so much fun. So I think, is it like a great movie? Absolutely not. But it is a fun movie, and I appreciate it for what it does. And I understand why they didn't go back to this style of thing. Obviously, like Ethan Hunt isn't James Bond. I don't think Tom Cruise works in that kind of role. But it's dude, it's a good time, man. I can't deny it.
Sharonda, is our boy Griff. Is he on something over there? Is he sipping on something? If so, pass along, Griff. Sharonda, what say you? I know that, again, we talked about it up top. This is your entry, so there's probably a little bit of nostalgia to it. You remember it being the first time you were introduced to this franchise. On a revisit, Sharonda, is it hidden like our boy Griff? He has it at a solid mission. Do you have it higher? Do you have it lower? Mission Impossible 2.
The only thing that is still hitting for MI2 is the feathered silk press vibe that in this film. That's still giving. Okay, let's just be honest. I ate this up when it came out in the early 2000s. Okay,
yeah.
It's indicative of the time. This is what we would call action camp.
Oh yeah.
Well,
climbing on a mountain, hanging on a mountain with no gear.
That's the thing. This movie is so self-aware. Like it's
climbing on a mountain. If Tom Cruise did one more backflip into a kick, I said, when did Ethan start doing martial arts?
Yo, it's that John Woo. It's that hard target, hard boiled karate action.
He was doing martial arts. Then they wasted my girl Naya. Like she came in like hot, okay?
Like a Catwoman. She was kind of like a Catwoman to his Batman almost.
Like she was acting. Because the crazy part is she did not like filming with Tom at the time.
Oh, really?
Chemistry so good. Literally from the first moment they meet that I was sleeping with each other. I was
in the tub.
reading stories like, are they sleeping together? Because that's how good their chemistry was. Turned her into a damsel in distress. We pimped her out.
She injected herself with the chlamydia.
Not to steal anything from him. Used her to go sleep with him.
Yeah.
Figure things out. That didn't make it. Like, we're just gonna use her to
Yep.
sleep with her ex.
That's the job, Ethan.
Hopkins is unhinged because I'm like, not Anthony. Did you?
Anthony Hopkins, yeah, they had him for one day. He was just on set for one day.
He has the best line in the entire series, which is like, "This isn't mission whatever, it's Mission Impossible," and I'm just like, "Oh God, yes, he said it. It's so good."
I was like, this. It's so over the top. You listen to the music, like,
yes.
But there are great moments.
There are.
That Ethan has ever had with a love interest in the entire franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Ethan's never had that much chemistry with anyone ever again.
I agree.
So I hate that Naya never came back because that's why MI3 even becomes.
We'll get to that, Julia. Yeah.
We saw between him and Naya. Julia just made no sense. So I do like that. I like that they're actually trying to save the world from like a deadly virus getting out. Like, there's actual high stakes because like the whole world will be affected by this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it's the worst one. Come on, bruh. Like it's the worst one. Go ahead and give it.
No.
Wait, so you have it at the very bad mission? Is that where you're?
It's a very bad mission.
Very bad mission. Okay.
So the effects are so bad. I was watching this like, wow. I've never seen it. Like the first one measured up better than the second one with effects. It was just too over the top. Come on, y'all.
Wow.
All right. So hey, we got my man Griff has it at a solid mission. Sharana has it at a very bad mission. So I guess my thoughts will determine where we're at. So I agree with both of you all. There is a campiness, over the top, tongue in cheek, John Wooisms that I had a fun time. Like I was literally laughing while watching most of this film. In a good way, but also kind of laughing at some of the film in a bad way. The thing that kind of, first off, the story, Griff. I mean, come on, man. The story is very kind of not the greatest. I'll just say that for me personally. But also, how many masks, and we'll talk about Dead Reckoning, how many masks with everyone being pickpocketed in that film, the mask reveals Griff and Sharon to me just went too over the top for me. It was like 19 times that someone had their face taken off and it was someone else. They used it way too much. Like they took something from the first one and it just tripled down on the whole mask reveal. But
when he got the henchman though, and he saw the finger,
I was gonna say,
that's the best.
Going back to Sharonda's cool, there are some very cool moments, Griff, and I will agree with you. Yes, the bike scene is absurd and crazy what it does, but it is pretty tense, action filled. But the scene that I love is when Ethan beats up the henchman. He takes his face. There's this very slow motion shot of Ethan looking at the villain, and I don't know what it is about it. It's the fires between the two, and they're looking, and there's like a fire in the villain's eye. That was so cheesy that I loved it. It was just, there's moments that I do genuinely enjoy, but I'm not going to go as low as Sharon. I'm not going to go as high as Griff. I'm at the not so great mission, which puts us at a leveling out. Are we going to put it at a not so great? Or Griff, do you want to fight for it? It's a solid mission.
No, because I'm going to have to fight for another one a little bit later on. So I'm willing to concede this one because I fully recognize that like a lot of what I like about the movie is is also what's bad about it. So it's like it's a weird sort of thing, and it sort of just depends on your, I guess, like how much you like John Woo is really what it comes down to. So I am down for not so great. Whatever you guys want to do with that.
And I love John Woo, but this wasn't the one. Sharon, are you okay with a not so great mission with this one?
I mean, I don't have a choice, do I? Because I would still say very bad.
Well, wait. So this is a good discussion here. Sharonda, that do you want to fight for this one to be the very bad mission?
Why? Because you're about to debate something that you know I'm going to hate? I mean, well, this is the worst movie in the franchise to me, so I'm sure I can be okay with whatever else you're going to argue.
Okay.
I love Mission Impossible 3, and you know why.
We're going to get to that one. So I think we're going to, not so great mission with a caveat that it could be at the very, 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 very bottom.
Yeah, because I'm very interested. I want to hear Griff debate this other one.
Which one?
The third one?
Figure out which one that you're about to go hard for. I mean,
okay.
I can't wait.
That's fair. It's not going to be 3 though. It's not going to be 3. I'll tell you that much.
Okay.
Well, no, can we very bad then?
Very okay. I'm gonna hold on. Let me We're gonna put it to
Sorry.
the very bad. No, no worries. I'm okay with that too, if I'm being honest with you. Because to my next point, what were you gonna say, Griff?
Oh, I'm gonna tip my hand a little bit. I don't actually think any of these movies are very bad. Like that's just in my opinion. Like even the worst film. If
Yeah.
this is your
If this is
worst
the worst
film,
one. Mhm.
Yeah,
I
like
You're
I
doing
think
something good. Yeah.
this is just in the franchise.
In the franchise.
yeah,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah.
I agree. I agree. So with that, Sharana, where would you place this? I think you might have
Oh,
let us know, but is it at the bottom?
yeah, the
7. Okay.
vibe.
Griff, what about you, man?
I have it at number 5.
Oh
Five.
my
Okay.
god.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. I think based on some of the stuff I've seen recently on Griff's Twitter, which you guys should follow Sharana and Griff on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, as well as
It's
a
all the
YouTube
same.
channel. It's all the same. I think I know which one might be Griff's bottom, which I'm very curious to see. So Sharana has Mission Impossible 2 at 7, and Griff has his at 5, and I have mine at 7 as well. Let us know where you have it on your tier list, but also on your personal list. Let us know. Let us know. So now the fun one. I'm going to kick things off with you, Sharonda. We have Mission Impossible 3, directed by the one and only J.J. Flair, screen lens, mystery box Abram. This film came out in 2006, May 5th. And Sharonda, we got Ethan, no longer his love interest is just disappeared from part 2. We never heard from her again. I guess it just ended terribly. We have Ethan now in love. He's engaged. He's about to get married to Julia. He seems to be in a happy-go-lucky life, but now he's being brought back in by the Force because there is a big bad villain. Rest in peace to the late, great Philip Seymour Hoffman. He's here. There is a rabbit's foot that can be catastrophic to the world. Sharonda, Mission Impossible 3. Talk about
Okay.
it.
The only reason that this movie does not come in at number 7 is because they had the greatest villain of the entire Mission franchise.
Here
Philip.
he is, y'all.
Literally the only reason that I can sit and watch this movie, okay? Because it is just egregious as soon as the movie starts, okay? Y'all need to tell
Don't talk about the opening, Sharonda. I love the opening.
the
I love
opening.
this opening. I love this opening.
The opening's so good.
I love it.
When we get to the party and
Yeah,
we
yeah.
realize that Ethan is about to marry someone that
Yeah, yeah.
they have the chemistry of like a brown paper bag. Okay. There is no chemistry whatsoever. And you mean to tell me you went from being with a woman that challenged you in every single way and with a deadly virus. Okay. So she wouldn't die, so you couldn't die. Like, and now you messing with Julia? Julia?
Sharonda, would one say this is like from his personal life, going from like, I don't know, Nicole Kidman to Katie Holmes? Is that kind of a good comparison? He was jumping on the couch for Katie. He was in love with Katie.
This
We
was
all
amidst
saw
that. That was
We saw that. Yeah, that was during the time that he was madly in love, Sharonda. So maybe he carried some of that chemistry over to this film.
There's no chemistry that we have whatsoever. Like, let's just be honest with ourselves, okay? We actually had a good story. Like, you had like this Asian. You had, oh my god! Even looking at the picture, it just makes me upset.
Sharonda, I'm gonna need you to put this on your wallpaper for your phone. Cinematic couple.
No chemistry whatsoever. All right. Now they had a good story with the rabbit.
Yeah.
And the fact that the whole thing with Kerry Russell, he had this recruit that, you know, it was fine. I like that. You got the little thing in your head that can explode and kill you. Like, the stakes are high, right?
Yeah.
It's Julia. You introduced us to this character, and now she's like the main thing driving Ethan down this whole road. I just no. It's really Julia that ruins the whole movie.
Wow.
It actually would have been a really great movie.
Yeah.
They would just let go of the idea that Ethan has to have a
love interest. Yes.
Established in the first film that is for his friends, his team. Yeah. He is a Kiwi Hill. We don't need a love interest for him. If they would have just focused on Rabbit's Foot and like making Philip Seymour Hoffman, because he really is like a trash villain in the movie, but his acting is so good that he's the best villain. So they had a great story there. I mean, Luther accused him of sleeping with his recruit.
He did. I was going to ask y'all. Do
Oh
you
my
think that
God,
Ethan
that's
crossed
so
the line?
funny.
Is that because that door was open? I don't know if there was this
Well, that's
late
the
night
weird.
Sharonda and they were just
Yeah, I mean that's sort of the
watching
weird thing about
Julius.
Ethan in the way that like Tom Cruise plays him and like the way that his relationship with like women is sort of
Women,
portrayed.
yeah.
It's like you can't really figure out if like it's just like there's like sexual chemistry or if it's like platonic or whatever. And
He loved everybody.
He
yeah,
does. He's a sucker. He's a sucker for the women. Yeah.
Also,
yeah.
Fishburne, who was in Ethan's ass. That man was in.
I was in my notes, Sharonda. I was going to bring that up. Go ahead.
Fishburne,
Oh, he was.
really should brought him back. He was such a hard ass, and when I say that he like did not care,
Oh,
he did not care. There is no leniency with Ethan. He was like, bring his ass in, lock him up. I don't care.
Fedor. He was the MIF director. Yeah.
We just had. I felt like that was like it was a good team.
Oh.
It was just a good team. You had a good villain, great team from the government side. And then you just have to ruin it with Julia. Like, this will be a great mission. Okay, this is honestly, it's still it might. There were no good action scenes though. If we
whoa.
I was gonna save this, but do I got to remind you of this scene here? This bridge scene to me, which we'll talk about when I get to my. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Concede. No good action.
Out doing other stuff in the franchise.
Huh?
Yeah, one scene.
No,
there's other Shanghai too. I like the chase.
I don't like the Shanghai. All right, yeah, that doesn't do it for me.
Okay. Go ahead. I want to tell you all these action scenes that happen.
Okay. Well, Sharonda, I love everything you said regarding Julia because I couldn't agree with you more. Griff, I'm gonna toss to you next, but I am not a fan of Julia. Nothing against the actress, but like the fact that we'll talk about we see her again in 4 and 5 or 6, I should say. I'm not a fan of that love story because I do agree. I don't feel like the chemistry was ever there. We're just thrown into this relationship without any like build up, or I never felt the chemistry. So I agree with Sharonda there. But Griff, I'm gonna toss it to you. And I'm sorry, Sharonda, where was this mission on the list for you before we toss it to Griff?
It's still a not so great mission. Julia.
Not so great. Okay. Julia, she brings it down for me too. But okay, Griff, I'm gonna toss it to you.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Julia, the action, Rabbit's Foot, Philip Seymour Hoffman, the team that Sharonda alluded to? Billy Crudup, may I add? He was in it too. I thought he was
yeah. That's kind of a fun little twist there.
And we were introduced. I forgot to. We were introduced to Benji in this film. This is the first time Benji's introduced to the franchise.
Yeah. I do really like Benji in this. I think JJ actually directs the hell out of this thing. There's a lot of energy to it. Like for a directorial debut, it's pretty solid. Like I think there's a lot of energy. He's clearly taking inspiration from the TV show in terms of its structure, especially with like the cold opening and then into the actual opening and the mission and everything and then just the stuff that follows. It feels and I know this is kind of like a criticism that gets leveled against it. It feels like Alias the movie, which I don't think is like a bad thing, but it has more in common with like the cable television shows of the time, like 24, Alias, like Lost, like a lot of like JJ's like signature things at the time than it does necessarily like the movies of the time or whatever. It also really it feels like a product of like the post 9/11 era where it's like the Big Brother, the government, and they're doing business with like terrorists and I don't know. So it's like it kind of checks a lot of the tropes of the time period, and it definitely feels like it's borrowing from television maybe a bit too much. But I actually don't mind that, because Mission Impossible started out as like a television series. So I think it's kind of cool to find a way to work that into the film in the way that they did. And I think that cold open is so effective. It's really thrilling. It's edge of your seat stuff. It's probably some of the best acting we've just seen from Tom Cruise in these movies, which is just going to naturally happen when you put him up against Philip Seymour Hoffman. So that's yeah, exactly. I agree with Sharonda that I don't think Owen is really all that interesting of a villain. like he doesn't really have any like motivations. He doesn't really like.
He's just an arms dealer, more or less.
Yeah, he's an arms dealer. Like, yeah, he's pretty callous, but it's the character comes alive because of Philip Seymour Hoffman, not necessarily because of the way that he's written, and especially because he's just kind of like offed so unceremoniously. It is, I don't know, it is interesting. It definitely is a case where it's like the actor was too good for the role, but my God, was he feasting?
He elevated
so
it.
yeah, for sure. I love just the camera movements in this. I think there's a lot of really dynamic camera stuff that works. Mainly in the earlier stuff and in the Vatican break-in, which I love. I love the Vatican break-in, specifically because, again, another highlight from Philip Seymour Hoffman, the scene where he takes Owen's face, Davian's face, and then you have like Philip Seymour Hoffman acting as Tom Cruise playing the character. It's just like that. Those layers of acting. I always just I love to see actors do that. And obviously, when you have a talent like Philip Seymour Hoffman, it's going to come through. It is an interesting kind of pivot away from the Ethan of MI2, and I think it's because that film was largely rejected. But it is so funny to just like go so far in the other direction where it's like he's so domesticated, he's like settling down, he's gonna give up everything for this woman and all that stuff. It's I don't know. And then also like I just can't picture Ethan as like a domestic guy. Like that's just never really been in his character. And so when you get someone like him, and maybe this is like part of the point, it's like a fish out of water thing where it's like you get someone like him who is so like entrenched in spycraft and everything, and you place him in a setting like this, it's like he just feels weird. Like he feels like even more of a weirdo that he already kind of is. So, and then I don't know. I really like Lindsay Ferris. I think that was a cool addition that I think they tried to circle back with in Dead Reckoning. They just did it a little bit better in that, I would say. But that whole break-in is really good. The whole idea of like the brain, the chip, like the chip that just like snaps, like that's a really cool idea.
When she dies and click, like her eyes roll back in her head. It's pretty.
It's I mean it's great. I love this team. It's similar to I'm pissed that they never brought back 10-Weight Newton.
Say it right now.
Dude, I'm pissed they never brought back Maggie Q. What the fuck?
My goodness. When I watched this for the first time in a long time, I was like, I forgot how she was in this franchise one, but I'm like, why didn't they bring her back? Because I thought first off, Maggie Q doesn't get enough work. To me, I'm a big fan of Maggie Q. But
no, dude, absolutely. And so it's like the fact that she never comes back. I mean, we'll get to it with the next one. The fact that Paul Patton never comes back. All these incredible like female agents in the IMF. Like I would have loved to have seen more of them as the franchise continued, but we don't get it. I don't. And then also I do think that I used to say, and I still kind of adhere to it, that I think this was the perfect ending to Ethan and his story. Like you could have gone into Ghost Protocol and like the movies wouldn't have been the same, but I think that like because this is him walking off with Julia and everything,
honeymoon.
The honeymoon's like, okay, he's done. We can move on from Ethan Hunt and we can go on to the next guy, or girl or whoever. But yeah, I mean, it's also got like probably the greatest or the second greatest Tom Cruise running sequence ever. it's so good, man. I love that sequence. Bridge sequence is great. Vatican sequence is great. This is just this is like where I place it. It is a solid Mission Impossible film. It's when the franchise started to go on the upswing. I don't think you get something like Ghost Protocol without MI3 laying the groundwork. And I mean, it feels like a movie based on a television show, but I mean, these are so like I don't know. It's fine.
You both.
I'm gonna argue you guys down on this one because like this doesn't make sense. It literally doesn't make sense for the character. It doesn't. The Julia romantic angle. You literally just had the previous movie.
Yeah.
The love of your life that you met 5 minutes in had almost died from a deadly virus because they were trying to get back at you.
Yeah.
So it does not make sense that if this person that you tried to be with, who understands the world that you're in because she was a thief and she's been involved with people, that then you would be like, hey, that didn't work out. So let me just find this civilian who like is great and all this high stuff, and let me just go marry her. What makes sense that someone in Ethan's situation, of what he's just been through, so that he's already lost his team, so that he can put this go and marry somebody.
I don't know. I like the attempt at like actually trying to dig into the character a little bit more in like a less superficial way. Like he's not just a spy, he's not just like an adrenaline junkie. Like there is like actually something more here driving him. And I mean, I get what you're saying where it's like he laid it all down for her at the end of the second one. That one obviously didn't respond, like it didn't resonate with audiences as well as it did. So like logistically I understand why they pivoted away. I just
and he still didn't give up everything for her. Remember, he was ready to let Julia die. He would not give away the location of the rabbit's foot, and they shot
her. Yeah,
shot with Julia. So,
well, I think he was. Yeah, I mean that's a really good scene because it is that kind of like. I mean that's part of what I like about the drama in here. Where it's like he's forced to choose between like the love of his life or the world, and he gets to a point where he can't make a decision, and it's literally by like the fact that it happened to be someone else that he manages to save her. So I don't like that's yeah.
Thing of him being head over heels for this person after he had all this chemistry in the second one, like does that really make sense? Because he's literally put the world at risk for his team multiple times.
Yeah, we see that throughout the franchise. Yeah, Rogue Nation.
He's supposed to love. He was ready. He let her die. She was dead.
Theoretically, yeah, it was they killed. It was his assistant or something that let him get kidnapped. Yeah.
I mean, I think so. That's why I always have to push back on that because Ethan has time and time again put the world at risk for his team.
Yeah,
convinced me that he is in love with Julia, and he literally let her die. That doesn't make sense to me. This is why I always think that it's pointless to even introduce love interest if you're gonna do things.
You're just gonna, and if I'm being honest, they should. I would have been okay if they killed her. If that was real, I would have personally wanted that. But Griff, what were you gonna say?
No, I just think it's. I think he was so used to. I think what this film does really well is it's sort of like it exposes his blind optimism in a way. It's like, okay, you're trying to reason with a guy that can't be reasoned with, and I mean, you know, he's also in a position where it's like he's got the charge in his head. He's like handcuffed. He's like he literally has no other thing. He doesn't know what else to do other than to try and just like reason and level with this guy on like a person to person thing. Yeah. And that costs, you know, him the life of someone else. He thinks it's Julie at the time, but it doesn't. Also, if I recall correctly, he doesn't know what happened to the rabbit's foot. Because he brought it to Shanghai and like was going to try and like do anything, and he tagged the rabbit's foot. He had an intention of like getting it back. They've done that before where they've like let the villain get the upper hand in order so that they can
follow it,
they can follow in and exactly. And so when that doesn't happen, then he's kind of put in a position where he's like he's on the back foot. He has no idea what to do, and the only thing he can do is try and just like reason with him as a person. And I think it really opens up his eyes that not everyone is as you know, selfless and like willing to do stuff. Like I don't know, not everyone has the humanity that he does. And I wish that like character flaw of him, that drive to see the best in people was kind of explored a little bit more, because they kind of hint at it in other films, but then he's always proven right. And I like that this film actually like proves him wrong for once. And it's like, nah, dude, there are some really shitty people out there. And I think you need to kind of come to terms with the fact that you can't keep everyone safe.
As we'll talk about with Dead Reckoning. He had a choice. which we'll definitely talk about. You guys bring again. I couldn't agree with you more, Sharonda. When I was watching this a couple weeks ago, that was my biggest issue with rewatching it. Was the Julia Ethan relationship just never really worked for me. But for me, as you know, we just kind of talked about, I really like the team in this one. Benji, and also two out of the three, this was probably the most like a summer blockbuster fun action, and it had a little bit of comedy in it with a Benji character at various points in the film, and of course getting Luther in the mix. But I do love Maggie Q, and I wish you. And who's to say we get an in-game moment with all these characters coming back in Mission Impossible 8 since they're still alive, as we assume. But
oh god,
Griff, I think you said one of the best lines for you were Anthony Hopkins talking to Ethan. I can't remember verbatim the line that Lawrence Fishburne says to him when he's on the table with his kind of Hannibal Lecter mask on. He said something to him about like I would cut myself to bleed on the stripes to protect the mayor. Like I really do wish that they would have kept Lawrence on the franchise.
He's so good.
He's so good to me, especially
so
in that
good.
scene.
Yeah.
So to me, it's just so many great moments that I just enjoyed. Julia aside, I really enjoy that bridge scene. It is thrilling to me. It is like exhilarating on that. Obviously we know they weren't going to kill Ethan, but I'm just like, I don't know what's about to happen on this bridge. I was just so engrossed in that scene. But again, it all falls down to me when we do get to the end. I think Griff said it earlier, the way they kill off the villain, which again, I think Philip Seymour Hoffman, as you both have said, elevates that character because he is very bland, very one-dimensional. But the scene on the airplane where he doesn't hear Ethan's name, they don't say his name, but then Luther says his name after he's like threatening to kill him. And he says, I'm going to find whoever you love. I'm going to kill her. It's like lines like that just gave me more from the character than what the story did. So, Sharon, I know you were at a not so great. Griff, you were at was it a solid mission?
Yeah, I think I put it at a solid one. Also, I know we didn't really talk about the rabbit's foot too much, but like the mystery box of the whole thing.
Oh, that's J.J. Abrams for you, right?
Yeah, but it's like, but it's
what it is.
I know it, but it's really good because it's like the rabbit's foot, whatever. It doesn't really matter. It could be this like nuclear weapon.
Yeah, I think
or
Benji has an exposition moment. It's like a God's complex thing where it's like you can end all stuff. Yeah, they never like.
Yeah, the anti-God. Yeah. But it's still one of those things where it's like we never get a concrete definition, and I like that. I like the
mystery box.
The mystery box of it all, and that carries all the way even to the end. It's like when like they're in that cafe and they're like shooting, and Julia has to kind of like protect herself to bring him back, and that relationship doesn't work for me, but the moment when she brings him back really does. Yeah. So I don't know, it's tough. I don't think Tom Cruise really has romantic chemistry with a lot of people, so it's not really Michelle Monaghan's fault, but
yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
I get more from, and we'll talk about it later. I get more from Julia and Ethan in a later film than I did in this one. So not so great for Sharonda, a solid mission from Griff, and I'm at a solid as well. Again, Julia really brings down this film. And honestly, the third act, because I hate the way they killed off the villain, Philip Seymour Hoffman. But everything else leading up to that, I do agree. The pacing of it is like so like we're moving and moving and moving. So, and I do love Billy Crudup too, and that kind of twist that comes to it a little bit later. So, Geronimo, do you want to fight for it to keep it at the not so great?
Because when I saw Billy, I was like, oh yeah, he can't be trusted.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's shady.
It felt like the first one to me.
Yeah,
I think it's a not so great mission.
Not so great. Yeah.
I mean, it's the acting of Philip Seymour Hoffman, but if we actually look at him as an actor, he was a trash villain. Like he was actually.
Oh yeah, 100% agree. I don't think he's the worst. That comes in the next one, but the villain is pretty one note. But Ethan,
he had to activate the chip to even fight Ethan.
Yeah,
and that lasted because Ethan just made it so he'll get hit by a car. So you really didn't spend that much time with him in the third act.
Not much. That's why I'm not a fan of the third act, I'm being honest. In Shanghai, besides the longest running scene of film history.
It's so good. It's so good.
I can not argue this one. Only Philip Seymour Hoffman. But if you take out one person in a movie that you know is terrible, is that a movie? Is that a solid movie when you take someone out and it completely crumbles?
But we can't. But hey, we can't take him out. He's there. He's there.
But maybe we give it the edge.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say maybe we give it the edge because of Lawrence Fishburne's one-liners, right? Like,
I'm a big
excuse me,
fan.
did you just
I
throw a
hope they bring
title
him
at
back.
me?
Yeah,
Like,
I really
yeah.
enjoyed Lawrence in this film a lot. And the group, I really do like this particular unit, even though
Yeah.
I wish we would have gotten get more from Maggie Q. I didn't really care too much about the other guy. I'll be honest. I don't even remember his name.
I don't think they really utilized Maggie Q in it.
Yeah,
And
she had.
wasn't Jonathan Rhys Myers in this too?
No,
Yeah,
that's what I I couldn't,
that's the
couldn't
other
even
guy.
remember
Yeah.
his character's name. He was just there. I'll be honest, he's just there. But Benji, I'll give a little hit. I like that Benji, what he adds to the mix of the cast too, because he brings a little bit of that levity and a little bit of the comedic relief to me. So I think not the solid mission. I think where we're at with this one. But I'm gonna start with you, Sharon, on this point. Where does this film land on your personal list?
Oh yeah, it's 6.
Number 6.
Yeah.
Griff, what about you, my man?
For me, oh shit, where was it? I have it at 4.
Or what was you gonna say, Sharon?
With the new ranking that I had, it might actually be.
I'm trying to think where mine is. I think mine's at 6 too, actually. As much as I thought, but this goes back to what Griff said. I don't think there's like terrible movies in this franchise. So the next ones that we're gonna go over, I think are a little bit better. But what is yours? Would you double check it, Sharon? Was it still 6 for you?
Mm, I might have to move MI3 up to 5, so I'm not gonna argue with you guys on this one.
To 5? Oh, okay. All right. Interested. I'm very curious to know where the okay. I think okay. All right. Let's go ahead and make that adjustment. 5. All right. So it's actually high. Funny enough, it seems I enjoyed it more, but it's lower on my list than yours. So that's okay. I'll take it.
On
I'll
my
take it.
original list out of 5 out of
Yeah.
6, it was number 6. So
Yeah, I got you. I got you. Okay. Well, again, guys, those in the comments, let us know again where it's on your list, as well as a particular tier where you all will have it there. We got some people talking about the Simon Pegg. Wish you had Maggie Q. And who's, like I said, who's to say that they won't pull an end game and just bring all the characters back and team take down the entity. So I'm gonna start with you again on this one, Sharonda. This is Ghost Protocol 2011. I think we said earlier, 2011. And again, at this point in the franchise, we have another director. We went from JJ to Brad Bird, who, if I'm not mistaken, this was his first live action film. Of course, you know, Iron Giant and Incredibles and a lot of great things in his filmography. But this was his first live action outing, Sharonda. And this one, to me, I think it started in 3, where it's like, you know, the action, the stunts are becoming a little bit more of the promotion of the films, but really more so in 4. If I can recall, they were, as they did with the whole Tom Cruise jumping off of a mountain, a new one, they were really pushing Tom Cruise's climbing a skyscraper. That was like the main promotion for part 4 that I can recall. This one, Sharana, introduces a lot of the tech to me. Again, we have a kind of new cast with Paula Pattinson. We have Jeremy Renner. Of course, Benji's back. Luther doesn't pop up to the end. But, Sharana, we got Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, directed by Brad Bird. What say you?
I think it's solid. I don't really. It's like one of those movies, and I know people finna drag me. Like, it's good for the stunts, and this is kind of where we start to get into the issue with some of the later Mission Impossible films.
Mm-hmm.
Great stunts, but if we're really sitting here thinking about story or even memorable characters, like I don't know. It's kind of just like everyone did good. It was it was fun to watch, but I don't know if it's necessarily memorable outside of the stunts. Like if you think about the story,
Yeah,
memorable story.
I said that Ethan Hawke, or not Ethan, Philip Seymour Hoffman, to me, you know, elevates the character, but the worst villain in the franchise to me comes from this film. Kurt Hendricks, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Hendricks. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even think him and Ethan, besides the ending of the film, I don't even think they conversed. I don't even think they have like a scene together until the they pass each other in the hallway. They see each other when he's running through Abu Dhabi and in the sand and all that stuff, but they don't even talk until like the end of the film. And he just feels like such a disconnected villain to me. He's trying to get the nukes, and Very, I agree with you, Sharonda. The story to me isn't as we'll talk about later in the franchise, and even some of the beginning ones, like the first one, doesn't really hit. But I agree, Sharonda. The stunts are what makes this film to me. Uh, Rewatching it, I just had so much fun on the mission. And again, I love how Brad Bird, almost kind of like The Incredibles, he leaned a lot more into like the tech. This was the most like tech heavy Mission Impossible film to me, not only from the mass perspective, but we're on the train. We get to see like these little hideout spots and so many different the cars. It was like very much so a spy tech heavy film, which I really had a fun time with. And speaking of teams, this might be a hot take, but this might be my favorite team
Yeah.
of all the mission films.
Yeah.
And I am a big fan of Paula Patton. I think she was a great addition. But rewatching it, and I've always been a fan of Jeremy Renner, but for some reason he just really clicks for me in this film as Brent, kind of the ground. He's trying to talk Ethan. I'm like, dude, this is you're running off of luck. Like you're not really thinking. Like I love how he pushed back on Ethan, and even though I'm not a fan of Julia, I do like the idea of him thinking that he was the reason that his wife died, and that whole plot, which was kind of unnecessary, but I like what they were doing because of what Jeremy was bringing. So I'm a fan of it. And then going back to Surrounders part, I think the stunts are just excellent. Like I love of course, the skyscraper, but there's just the way it's written and just seeing some more of that comedy from Ethan when Britt says to him, "You're a little short." No shit. And that's like the Tom Cruise superstar kind of Jerry Maguire vibe that I just love from when Tom can get to those ranges of just like comedy. Tropic Thunder being another one. So I have a really good time. Not so much with the story, not so much with the villain. Of course, they bring Julia up yet again at the very end. But the stunts and the action and the tech really carry this film for me. And I will just say this before I talk to you, Griff. I don't like the villain at all.
Yeah.
So much so that I really wish they could have rewrote to have Leah Seydoux just be the main villain.
Yeah, I never understood.
She was wasted. She was completely wasted in this franchise. So, and to go back to you, Sharana, where was this one on your list as far as the ranking goes?
I mean, I can't really argue it.
Yeah.
It's just one of those. It's just a solid movie.
A solid mission.
That much.
Yeah.
But it's also forgettable. It's like just a middle of the road. Like it has great stunts in it. So let the stunts outweigh it. Terrible villain. Probably the worst villain.
He's so bad. He doesn't even have lines.
He doesn't really have too much. And it's kind of a waste of Michael Nyquist's acting abilities. What I will say is like I don't like, while the villain is undoubtedly the weakest part, and I agree with you, they should have done like Leia Seydoux should have been the villain from the get-go. Yeah. I do like the fact that it is like a very like traditional spy story. Like it's very like if the series up until that point had been like you'd had the first one, which is sort of like the less glamorous spy movie. The second one, which was like kind of like a riff on like the Pierce Brosnan era of Bond. The third one, a bit more of like Bourne 24 and stuff like that. This feels like traditional. Like when you think of James Bond, you think of like the globe-trotting, like espionage spectacle of it all. You've got the Russians as the villains. Like it's just very classic in that way. And so I think while Hendricks, like, yeah, he's a very like one-dimensional villain who just wants like nuclear, like he just wants nukes for whatever. It's
his cause of setting the world. Yeah, it was just very stereotypical.
Right. But like I think that works because it was clear that the focus of this film was on the team dynamic and strengthening that, because this is the first movie that understood that it isn't about Tom Cruise. It's about Tom Cruise and the team. It's about everyone working together. Because I think Mission is at its best when it understands that it is at the crossroads of espionage and a heist film. And this is that film that really hits the perfect mark. Now, obviously, I will go on to say that the best film in this franchise doesn't necessarily do that, but I do think that all of the best Mission Impossible movies have a heist element to them. This one being the greatest heist out of the entire series, which is the Burj Khalifa sequence, which is it still is the high point for this series in terms of set pieces, because it's not just him climbing the Burj Khalifa. It's not just the stuff that follows. It's like how that goes into the fact that they don't have the masks, they don't have the tech, and
Right.
so they have to improvise on the fly.
Mhm.
There's a lot of tension built out of that, and then the chase through the sandstorm that follows is exhilarating. Michael
Paula Patton, when she
Giacchino's
kicks her out of the window, she kills her.
it's so
lost the
good.
lover at the beginning of the
Yes.
movie.
Oh my god. Yeah,
There's a lot going
that's
on
so
there,
good. And to your point, like Paula Patton's personal investment in the mission because of what happened with Sawyer from Lost at the beginning of this is great. Which, by the way, that open after the I can't remember. Is that the opening of the film, or does that happen
no, it's open.
after
That's
they
one of
break
my
them out?
favorite openings as well. Yeah, when it's
Yeah,
not
the
even an
alternate
Ethan
team.
mission. It's Benji
Yeah.
with another team doing a mission, and it all goes to shit when Lisa
dude.
comes in. It's a really good opening. Really good opening.
I love seeing that other team get to carry out a mission without Tom Cruise. Also, I hate the fact that they had to kill off Sawyer because he was so good. I was I bought him in this. I was like, I want to see him for more. And then damn, they had to kill him off. But yeah, that was really cool. And then obviously you get Lea Seydoux versus Paula Patton, which is great. The personal connection there. I know she should have been. I know, it kills me. The Russian prison breakout is incredible. That's a really fun sequence. And then the way that goes into the light the fuse, I think, is one of my favorite ways that it's these movies have transitioned into the opening titles. Oh, and then the stuff in India. I think it's India, if I'm not mistaken.
With the guy, the ball.
I love him.
I didn't know. That was too cheesy. That takes me out.
Characters' bodies to get something.
Yeah.
Wait, what was that? Sorry, what did you say?
Using Paula Patton as a sexual item to
it. Honestly, the treatment of female characters in the mission films are trash. And
so yeah, for sure.
It isn't until Rogation we take
So I'll push that. I'll push back on that just ever so slightly in that scene, because I don't yes, there is an over sexualization to that, but I do think the nature of spycraft is using the power of persuasion and your sexuality to get what you want. And I never Wait, what'd you say?
So when has Ethan done that?
In 2 and 1. Actually, the beginning of 2, he's very
He wasn't supposed to sleep with her. That was just something that Ethan did.
Well, yeah. But also, I think, to your point, I actually think that's one of the things that I don't like about Ethan is he's too, I don't know. He's very, he I can't picture this guy being a spy, basically, because he's so, you can't picture Tom Cruise in these scenarios where he has to use the power of seduction.
Suave, yeah. I don't really get, suave.
Yeah, so
by Paula's character, when Ethan at this point in 4 movies has never had to do that he's never had to do that to get a mission through, to finish.
Oh, sure. That's that's an issue with the larger franchise. I totally agree with you there. I'm just saying Paula Patton in this, I don't think she's ever put in a position that where she's uncomfortable and she is
when he kisses her too.
Well, yeah, he's I'm playing a hunch for something. Don't hate me on this, and then it plays it. And then she goes through and she doesn't even sleep with him. Yeah, she doesn't even sleep with him. She immediately knocks him out, gets the information, and then dips out of there.
It's still weird, but okay.
I agree. No, I will say this too. I was just thinking about it, Sharon. It was off screen, but I think it was alluded to, and we'll talk about it in Rogue Nation. Fallout. The White Widow, I think, and they allude to it in Dead Reckoning, that he had to maybe sleep with her to get her off of his scent or something. So, but I agree with you, Sharon. The sexualizing Ethan hasn't been a thing as we see with Paul Patton in this one. But go ahead, go ahead.
No, but part of me wonders if that's just because to your point, Sharonda, every single time they have tried to make Ethan Hunt a more traditional spy or a James Bond character, it doesn't work because Tom Cruise just can't do that, and so it comes off being more off-putting than perhaps it would be if you had a person in there who was actually able to make that the spy element of it all, the seduction of spycraft.
He's no Bond.
Work.
Definitely no Bond.
I think I get more touchy on it because. And I know people gonna drag me in the comments, but whatever. I still have to say this as a Black woman. I feel like for the only 2 instances where we have Black women in this franchise, they're all sexualized in some way, shape, or form.
That's
And I
true. 100%. Yeah.
that's the issue that I have with it because
Hmm.
they're actually interesting characters, but
Yeah.
we only know Paula Patton. Like it just gets weird to me,
Hmm.
and it doesn't make sense, and it just didn't. I don't know. It just didn't need to
I
happen, and it was kind of just like a joke that she even had to like. She's clearly even uncomfortable with having to be the person that has to do that in order to get the codes. Like her character's clearly uncomfortable with it in the first place because she's a field agent. She's never had to do things like this. It's all about just you get the job done. But I've never had to use my body to get the job done. So I just think we have to be very cognizant, especially when there isn't a lot of representation.
Yeah.
yeah
Yeah.
We just have to be different about that. You know,
I agree.
yeah.
I don't think it was meant to be malicious. But if
Hmm.
you sit and look at all of the introduction of women in the franchise,
Yeah.
only with those two characters that they've actually been sexualized.
I would also throw in Maggie Q too because she had less to
She had
do
to,
in
yeah, yeah.
MI3 and she was like definitely like overly sexualized, I would say, in the dress there, and she wasn't even using her like sexuality for like persuasion or anything like that. She was, just eye candy. So
Yeah.
to your point, yes, I agree, and I actually and it is interesting how all the women of color in these movies are kind of treated
Only
not so great.
the only one who because she works in an office, so
Yeah. No, that's
agree.
that's a great point to bring
Good
up.
point. No, it really is.
Yeah, but
Ooh, y'all, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to kill them.
No, this is not.
No, you're 100.
This is
Like
why we're
this,
having this discussion. This is why I wanted to have you two on in particular to have this type of discussion. So not at all.
Yeah.
This isn't for the movie. It's
well, you're
part of the
priming you're priming me for stuff that I'm gonna bring up later on. So like that, like
Yeah.
I'm 100% with you. I got you there. But yeah, the film as a whole, like I think it's just like it's fun. It melds. It does what Mission does best. Villain's not great, but like the set pieces are fun. I love the oh my god, when they go into the Kremlin, that's such a great sequence, and that's a nice bit of like infiltration.
That's such a great. The tech that's used there, but also
Yeah.
that's one of the few times we actually see like the like ramifications of something so catastrophic go down in the movie, which is the Kremlin being blown up.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I just think like this is. I like if this movie had a little bit more style to it, I think I would probably like rank it above the first one for me. But like as it stands, this is still pretty much like what I'd like from the franchise and like what I think it excels at. So for me, I put it at a great mission. I think it really is. And also without this movie, we don't get that that what you call it that pivot into more like set piece driven.
Yeah, that's what I was saying at the
films.
beginning. Yeah, this one was the one. Again, 3 had a lot of action. Of course, we know Tom Cruise was doing action previous to that, but this one was like they started to pivot from like less about the story being maybe not as integral, but they started to focus on like the missions are like the key thing, and like you mentioned, the heist and climbing on the skyscraper. So we got a great mission. Sharana, where were you at again? Was it a solid mission for you?
Definitely not a great mission. It's solid.
Solid. Okay. And I am gonna put it at a solid as well, which brings us here. So let me just put that here. Which was it 4? We got a solid.
All right. Well, I'm gonna win this next one. That's all
right. Let's hear it, man. So with that, Sharana, where was Mission Impossible 4 Ghost Protocol on your list?
4.
Okay. What about you, Griff?
For me, it's at 3, right? Because it's at 3. Yeah.
3, okay. And then I have it as my Ghost Protocol 5. So I have it at my 5th one.
Oh, also, MI3 for me is at 4.
4, okay. MI3. Oops. All right. MI3, 4.
The fact that you got MI2 at 5 is still sending me right now.
That's why I love Griff, man. He's always shaking things up.
I don't need to. This is from a recent rewatch too. It's not like
Griff, I'm gonna need that. I know Quantum of Solace was one of your big videos that you had a lot of great points. I'm still not the biggest fan of that film, but I'm gonna need that Mission Impossible 2 essay.
Holy hell. I
You
don't know
don't
if I
need
can
it.
go to bat for it that hard. Like I like you, I like the movie, but it's more of just like I'm willing to
You
just
need
go
it,
with the
man.
John Woo of it all. But
Like, honey, you gonna get dragged. And I'm
yeah, no, I
I
definitely
need
will.
it,
Well,
Griff.
no, I'll probably get dragged more for this next take, so that's fine.
Oh boy, let's hear. Hey, before we get to the next take again, we're about an hour and 19 minutes in. Sharana, Griff, this is why I'm a big fans of you all from content creators. This conversation has been so much fun. And if you guys are having as much fun as I am, make sure you're hitting the like button, share, try to get some more of your comments as we wrap it up. But definitely, if you haven't already, which I'm pretty sure you all that are watching live are already subscribed to Film Speak and Pay Your Weight. But just in case you're not, stop what you're doing right now. Open up your phone, your tablet, computer, whatever the case may be. Subscribe to their channels. As you all can see, they have incredible takes, great personalities, great banter. So subscribe to their content. All right, guys. So now we went from Ghost Protocol 2011 to 2015. And this is yet another new director, Christopher McQuarrie, who at this point of his career has done some live action films, but not really pop. He's been doing a lot. He's like uncredited as writers. He's worked with Tom Cruise before, but never really had that film to put him on the map. And also this collaboration with Tom Cruise is becoming like a Martin Scorsese, Leo, Spike Lee, Denzel type of collaboration at this point. Rogue Nation, Griffin. We got a lot of the same crew. Again, Brent's back. Apollo wasn't brought back. Luther wasn't too involved in part 4, but he came in at the very end. But he's now back in the mix. In the situation at hand,
want to pay him. That's
what
why
was that?
they didn't want to pay him.
Which is crazy.
Oh, was that actually a thing? That was a
I didn't
thing.
know.
They didn't want to. The money wasn't right, and he's the only person that's been in the franchise since the
From the
first.
very beginning. Yeah. That's crazy. Oh,
Mhm.
I'm so glad they brought him back because he's my guy. But this one, and I forgot to mention, for the first time in the franchise, part 4 ends not on a cliffhanger, but ends mission. The mission is when Ethan forgives Bran about not forgive him, but he tells him what actually happened to Julia. He's has that moment with her. He gets a mission, and the mission says there's a syndicate out there. So that was like the first time we actually get from a movie to the next movie, and it sets up the next one in motion. And again, starting with you, Griff, this is a movie that introduces these rogue agents, hence the title, Rogue Nation, these rogue agents. We got Solomon Lane, who's ex-agent who's just fed up of the system and wants to tear it down from the inside. He has all these believers in him. And we also get the introduction to one of my personal favorite characters in this entire franchise, Rebecca Ferguson as Ilsa, who's just kind of doing her mission, comes across with Ethan and all that stuff. Griff, where do you want to start with this one? Because it sounds like you might not be the biggest fan, but I might be wrong.
I have kind of a difficult relationship with this one. It has by far my favorite aesthetic out of all of these movies. The cinematography, Robert Elliswitt, I forget which, it's either Roger or Robert, but anyways, he shoots the hell out of this thing. I really like the use of yellows, the lighting. It feels very like the world of espionage feels very mysterious yet seductive. There's a lot of just like interesting ideas at play for once. I think probably more so than we've gotten since the first film. Ilsa Faust is the greatest thing to ever happen to this franchise. She's the best character in these movies by far. So I love her. For me, it's weird. It's a movie where like stuff happens and yet not a lot of stuff happens. It's certainly less exhilarating than I think it gets credit for. Like, for me, the movie kind of peaks at the opening. That stunt, which I know is a bad thing to say, but it's like that stunt is incredible. Yeah. But then it's sort of like everything just never reaches that high again. Like even the bike chase, which is incredible. Like that's probably the second
sequence to me is pretty cool.
When he is revived and then it goes from the car sequence into the bike chase, like that's all great stuff. And you've got the little Mad Max homage when like Ilsa steps out and he like derails the bike. Like all that is great. But I don't know. I feel like I know everyone loves the opera sequence and there is a beauty to it.
Yeah.
I am so bored. Like it really does nothing for me. And I've been trying to figure this out because every time I put this movie on, I always kind of check out or doze off at the opera sequence. And I normally like stuff like that that's very like sensory based. It's playing with visuals that are helping to build tension, but I don't know. Like there is no denying it's a great sequence, and I think when people call this movie Hitchcockian, they're really just referring to that sequence because it's very like The Man Who Knew Too Much, and it's very obvious they're trying to draw from that. But yeah, I don't know. And then there's like some weird time jumps that are never really made clear. Like the time jump from the stuff that happens at the beginning to like Ethan in the record store to like the mission that's going on with Benji. There's no real sense of like a timeline going on here. So it's like kind of hard to like make heads or tails out of what's going on. I like the concept of the syndicate. I don't like the way that they ultimately go with them, because I think there is genuinely like something interesting to explore about the systemic issues that would cause someone like Lane to become an anarchist. But I don't think McQuarrie or Cruz really understand anarchists. They're just like, oh, they're bad people who are like blaming the system for their own problems. But it's like, no. Like the system is actually an issue, and like look what it's doing to someone like Ilsa, and like how it's manipulating her and all that stuff. But they don't write Ethan in a way where like he's sympathetic towards that. Like Lane is obviously a bad guy, but like his reason for becoming an anarchist is actually like understandable. Like he was used by his government and then kind of like fucked over, and so he's like, all right, I don't trust the governments of the world to do this, and so we're going to take things into our own hands. And so I don't know, it kind of winds up basically getting to a point where it's like the most important thing to do is uphold the status quo, when that's not really what you should be advocating for when there's clearly a lot of issues. I think the line that I always go to that just, I'm baffled that this line does not get more like criticism and attention, but it's like when Ethan says you blame the system for what you are. And it's like, yeah, okay, maybe in the case of Lane, he's like clearly kind of using something to make his case, but like, this like the system is clearly like not right. Like it's pretty corrupt, and so for you to kind of advocate for the system is a really, that's just such a weird thing for me. And so like Rogue Nation for me this is the part where I think the politics of these movies start to get a little messy, and they're dealing with interesting ideas, but I feel like McQuarrie either doesn't fully understand what he's writing about, or he's like, I don't know, maybe this is just genuinely how he feels, where it's like, oh, it's your fault that this happened, instead of like looking at it in a more nuanced way. So I don't know. I think that's my big issue with it is the politics of the whole thing are just so messy. Yeah.
Before I toss to you, Sharon, I actually like the idea, and if I'm being honest with you, and I totally agree with you with Ilsa just being the most interesting character, because I actually think she's the lead of the film, if I'm being honest, because a lot of the her MI6 director create the syndicate, and it's from that basis of where all this kind of stems from, with Lane being attached to it. So I think it's a lot of her film, and I wish they almost, because I forgot to mention in Ghost Protocol, not rumor, but there was a point in one of the original scripts that Jeremy Renner was supposed to be the next kind of replacing Ethan Hunt, and Ethan was going to be the head of MI and kind of retire the character, but obviously that didn't come to fruition, which I'm surprised they actually brought him back. I guess him and Tom Cruise really got along, but Brent definitely didn't have as much to do because he's battling with Alec Baldwin's character, which the CIA is like, at this point in the franchise, my only issue with this film is at this point in the franchise, the CIA is pushing back on Ethan and using all this kind of script reasonings to not trust him after saving the world the last 4 films. To me was just so baffling, and we get it again in Fallout, but that is one of my biggest issues. But everything else in this film, to me, Elsa is a fantastic character. I love the opera house scene because the tension is there, the thinking on his feet to shoot the prime minister, versus thinking that Elsa was going to kill him, and the sequence with them underwater and him holding his breath and all that stuff to me is just really great. The ending, not my favorite. I like the idea of trapping him and Benji on the line. We talked about he puts his friends first, but yeah, Sharon, I want to know what you think about Rogue Nation.
I love Rogue Nation. It's the
Yes.
closest that the series has ever gotten back to the first film. It's actually like a spy movie, government conspiracy. I do want to push back on the whole thing about the CIA not trusting Ethan.
Yeah.
That's the first one. Ethan always does what Ethan wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
From the first one, he went rogue and kind of did what he needed to do. He'll
Right,
work.
right.
He'll work with villains in order to get what he needs in the hopes that he can just get it right back from
He's a
them.
wild card.
Yeah, he doesn't
Yeah.
follow
But he gets the job done. Yeah, I get you.
I love Ilsa. It's one of the best representations of women that we've had in the entire franchise.
100%.
And I just think that, I mean, how it ends with basically like he doesn't have the support of the CIA anymore. I mean, I'm just like, you can't get any better than this. Like, it just really felt like you have the motorcycle scenes, you got the underwater scene.
Yeah.
You have this whole back and forth, like, but then you're like, should we trust Ilsa? Like, it's even
Yeah.
fall for somebody in 5 minutes of a movie.
Right.
I like the constant back and forth, and that Ethan actually has someone that is giving him a run for his money. I don't think he actually had that consistently throughout a film because either they quickly joined his side or whatever happens. I just feel like it was like just good balance. I still love Jeremy Renner so much. I really wish that Jeremy could have stayed in this franchise. But
is that the Avengers stuff, Sharon? You think it's just Avengers, Marvel, just busy? Yeah.
So I actually love this team.
Okay. Well, I gotta give you some credit because Elsa being a part of the team.
Yeah. So like, this on, like, I'm like, this is
the crew
to rock with. So
yeah,
I actually really love Rogue Nation. It feel like the first one. It felt like the first Mission Impossible all over again.
It's a lot of great things about it. I agree with you. And I guess go back to Griff. Where was your list for this one, Griff?
I have this in,
or not on your ranking list, but on the great, solid, not so great.
I think it's a not so great mission.
Wow.
It's like this is the one that I wanted
to defend or to
fight for, because it's I think it is like there's good stuff to it. There's craftsmanship. I just like. And this is like an issue that we'll get into with Dead Reckoning. I just think that the plot is like really messy, and I don't think it really understands what it's saying. But that's just,
That's so great. You're breaking my heart, Griff. Sharon, where was this one for you?
I think this is like best of the best or great. Like, I mean,
I'm kind of with you.
I'm gonna be honest. My one to go back and forth between Rogue Nation and Fallout, because I love them for different reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it depends on how we're looking at it. I still think I love it. You can put great or best of the best. Like, I'm fine with either one.
Before we get to that, because I think this is going to be the determining factor, because I'm with you. This is one of my higher ones on the list, which brings me to Sharana. Where does this film fall in your personal rankings, Rogue Nation? Which one was it? 2. Griff, for you?
6.
6. Wow. Goodness, Griff.
Yeah.
That's amazing, my friend. That is amazing. Yeah, this is my number. Let me check here. Yep, this is my number 2 as well. So Griff go ahead.
Like, I'll just say this. Like, I think there's an interesting idea here, contrasting like the governments of the world that are kind of like forcing their agents into situations like Ilsa and MI6 versus like the IMF that offers them a choice. Like there's like, that's, I don't know. I think it's a compelling idea that kind of critiques these world powers that kind of prey upon vulnerable people and exploit them, and like that's really interesting, and I wish that kind of carried on a little bit more in the other films. I think the thing for me that gets a little weird is the way that like they depict the IMF as being infallible. Like it is
they close off the department. They shut it down at the beginning.
Well, yeah, I mean that's sort of the thing. They're making the case as like, oh, the IMF is this moral compass, and like, yes, I think that's like they are good. They have good intentions. They are right, but their ideologies are never questioned. Their decisions are never questioned. Like Ethan is just like this all good, like incapable of being wrong person. Like Luther has a line in the film where he's like, sometimes Ethan is the only one who knows the right thing to do. And I'm like, I get what you're trying to say, but I just feel like to say that this guy is above criticism or is above like making mistakes feels very weird to me. It kind of plays into the crew's, ego thing of it all, which is a bit iffy for me. So I don't know.
For Luther to side with Ethan. Ethan's the one who brought him back in. You forget the government discarded him.
Yeah, sure. Like, one of my issues with Luther actually in the film's post 3 is that I understand why he's written this way because he is like Ethan's best friend, but he's almost Ethan's best friend to like a detriment. Like he's almost unwilling to. Outside of like the one moment in 7 where he actually does question him on what his objective is in the mission.
Yeah. He checked him in 3. He checked him on 2 things in 3. He checked him on Julia and he checked him like, did you have an inappropriate relationship?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I was saying since like 3 was really the only time, like post 3, I feel like Luther has sort of just been like his cheerleader, like just a blind like cheerleader at that. And so
probably as a black person, I'm gonna interject on this.
No, go for it.
I feel like as black people, we have very much ride or die mentality. So like I'm rocking with who rocking with me.
Who rocking with me, yeah.
So okay. If Ethan's the one who negotiated me not to be disavowed, got my life back, got me making a good little check, doing it. Right? So some F the government type of stuff because the government they care about me, they disavow me. So
that's fair. That's fair.
I'm a rough part in for that because I just think Luther, hey, he took care of me.
He's looking out for me. That's the homie.
No, that's fair. No, that's a good piece of insight that I wouldn't. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, no, I think the other. I guess like the moral of the story is like I know the film is trying to lionize Ethan Hunt as this just like mythic incorruptible symbol, and I think that kind of starts here, and I just that works if he's like a superhero or whatever. I don't know, like it just feels kind of weird in like the realm of spycraft to I don't know. That's sort of like my big thing with that.
I hear you, man. But yeah, I'm so we again, I guess we have so I know this is lower in your end, Griff. For Toronto, you're at best of the best to great. I'm in the same boat with you, but Griff and where was this one on Griff again for not so great? So I guess it would balance out to a great mission. Are you solid with that, Toronto, or do you want to go with best of the best? Because I wouldn't be
for Griffin, but yeah, you could put it as a great mission.
A great mission, okay. I'm high. I'm very high on this film, and I can't believe, Griff, that you're not a fan of the opera house scene, man. I think that's like such. Like so up your alley, just like
I know.
I didn't get your point on it. Were you a fan of that opera house scene?
I was just okay with Ilsa being Black Widow the whole movie, to be quite honest.
She was, she was. Yeah. Which I guess I should ask this up front. We're 5 films in. Do you guys have a favorite set piece thus far? 5 films into the franchise.
Oh, it's the Burj Khalifa easily. That's the best. Yeah.
Up to this point, Sharana, what has been your favorite stunt set piece? 5 films in. Again, we got the sweat part 1, motorcycle battle 2. I know you weren't the biggest fan of the action in 3. Well, we got a good bridge fight in the long run.
If you say, I'm torn.
Yeah.
because as much as people are gonna fight me on this, I just feel like the first one is so iconic. It's never been
Yeah.
outdone. Like
Yeah.
You talking about the dangling down sweat sequence?
the most simple thing that has been
Yeah.
created in other action films that like no one's. It's like it kind
It's
of
iconic. It's iconic.
Yeah.
that everything has to be like bombs, explosions, and all
Right.
things
Right. 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 Right.
like you're never gonna have a moment like that ever again in a movie. And if you think about the most iconic scenes in movies,
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
never has anything to do with explosions. It's something very simple. If you
Simple.
think of Cap picking up Thor's iron, like Thor's hammer,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
most simple things that have the most just beautiful reactions from an audience.
Right.
I
Right.
Yeah.
wish we could get back to that in movies.
Ooh, Sharon. I could. It is very iconic. It is a memorable, like, it might be to the franchise. This might be what a lot of people think of when they might think of Mission Impossible is that first mission, and or not this particular mission, but later in the film in the mission, but that first mission film of this. I think you're right, Sean. I don't think we've gotten as much tension. They tried. I don't want to say recreate it, but I think about Rogue or Ghost Protocol again with Benji and him using the tech, using that projector to emulate the hallway scene, and like there's no score, there's no soundtrack, it's just complete silence. So there are moments that they're trying to recreate that iconic moment, but I don't think they've actually gotten back to this. So that's a great point, Sharon. I like that.
Never will.
Yeah,
They'll never outdo that ever again.
we'll see. We got part 8. Well, coming out in 3 years. We'll see. So all right, so that now brings us to what I think a lot of people might be saying at home or watching the replay. This brings us to 2000, I want to say 18. Really crazy year for cinema. Infinity War, Black Panther. There's a lot of great stuff that summer. And on July 27, 2018, we got Mission Impossible Fallout, again, bringing back the first time ever in the franchise, another director, or the same director, which is Christopher McQuarrie. And this one is the fallout, the ramifications of, again, this is the kind of if Rogue Nation was I would say Ghost Protocol is this individual trilogy of films, kind of like Fast and Furious 5, 6, and 7. I would say that Fallout or Protocol, Rogue Nation, and this is kind of the finale of that trilogy with Fallout. I'm going to toss it to you first, Yolanda. A lot of people, and I'm one of them, think this is one of the best action movies. Putting the spy stuff aside for a second, but like just purely action movies, one of the best in the past 10, 15 years. Henry Cavill, Angela Bassett. We got our crew back. Again, we got Solomon Lane, who was taken under custody, but now we have this whole situation at hand where there's the apostles, the believers that still believe in the syndicate, doing out their missions. And we have, again, CIA with Angela Bassett bringing in her hammer, and Henry Cavill's character, August, as we later find out who he really is. But Sharana, again, the action, I think, is what a lot of people remember about this film. And I want to kick it off with you. What do you think about Fallout?
But let's see. So when we say action, though,
Yes.
to bring this back because some of the best things, the bathroom, like it's just hand to hand combat. Like just fighting in a bathroom stall. And one of the things that I love about the scene in the bathroom is you literally think that Henry Cavill's character is about to beat everybody ass in the bathroom. They ass beat.
They were getting spanked. I love that scene, Sharon.
Not underestimate people just because of their size. Because he was putting in work on, he was beating both their ass at the same time. That bathroom sequence is it's
excellent.
Fun. Like, that, then you have Tom Cruise in a helicopter. He's actually flying the helicopter. Mm-hmm. He's working the cameras at the same time while he's acting. Like, once again, another moment that no one will pay any attention to, but you have to understand the craft and what Tom puts into his movies to understand what it took for a scene like that to actually work. Okay? Now, this kind of solidified that Lane is trash, like as a villain. I didn't really care for Lane as a villain. Like this guy, he really didn't do nothing.
Well, it's kind of a weird thing because this is the first time we got like two villains on their own right, with John Lark being Henry Cavill later in the film, and then they're working together. But who was the lead of the villains in this? Like, was it
Lane
Lane is the main guy.
he's working
Yeah.
for Lane. Like Henry
Yeah.
Cavill's character is working for Lane.
Right.
Yeah, but it is interesting though, because like I would almost consider August Walker the main villain of the film, even though like
That's
Lane
why,
is pulling
yeah.
the strings.
The strings, yeah.
But yeah, I mean I agree with you. I think Lane sucks in this movie.
Yeah, he's kind of
terrible villain in this movie. I mean, it isn't until we realize why he chose, you know, like the final set piece. Like when we realize why he chose,
why he's there.
then we realize that like Lane is a character that plays the long game, which
Yeah.
I would give him a little bit more above Philip Seymour Hoffman's character.
Yeah.
No one saw that coming. Like
The
when
Julia angle.
in the theater and my man running, and then
Yeah.
I said, I think it is.
We open the film, if I'm not mistaken. Well, not open the film. We have a dream sequence with Ethan, with that whole a bomb going on. I'm like, oh, Julia's back. Yeah.
So I was just like,
Yeah.
I actually really like that part. And to be honest, this is the only time that I've actually liked Julia in any.
Say it. Yes.
That
was what I mentioned earlier. Yep.
only
Only time. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But Ilsa is still good. Like
Yes.
the team is still great.
Yes.
So I really like Fallout because you have these cool action set pieces, the helicopters, and
The Halo jump is so cool to me too.
like I felt like even with Vanessa Kirby, I actually liked her character, and I thought say that she was sexualized, but no, I just felt like she's a sexually free character.
That she's her. Yeah.
And I was back to the first film, how she's Max's daughter, and so I like how we continue this continuity. And actually, if you think about it, they always pay homage to what's come before because if you look at Ghost Nation is when they do the motorcycle chase, which reminds you of Mission Impossible 2.
Right.
Fallout, when you see Ethan scaling the mountain to get
that goes back to 2 as well. Yep.
You know, it goes to that one as well. So I like how you know.
Yep.
But I love Fallout. Angela Bassett didn't care about it. Nobody. She said all back.
That's so good. I love that.
Yeah.
Here and try to figure this out. Jeremy Renner is fantastic. The whole scenes between him like testifying before the committee, and then even how it ties back into the end of him saying like I can't confirm or deny any involvement of like the whole back and forth between him and Alec Baldwin's character. Like,
well, you're thinking of 5.
That's 5.
You're mixing in Rogue Nation.
In Fallout,
he's not in Fallout. They didn't bring him back.
Alec Baldwin is in Fallout.
He dies in Fallout. Yeah.
Okay, they're all running together.
They do got a cook.
When I was watching he was in Fallout. I was like, oh,
yeah.
I hope he died by the end of this, so we ain't got to hear no craziness and Dead Reckoning. Or like, oh, okay, great, he died. Like, you know, I mean, not in real life. But
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Jeremy Renner was doing. Was born? No, he was way past. I don't know what Jeremy. I don't know why they didn't bring him back. He wasn't doing Avengers because he wasn't in. I guess they were doing Infinity War and Endgame back to back.
Or was he? I don't know what he was doing.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know what he was doing. I think they were shooting Infinity War and Endgame like around the same time. So maybe I don't know. Maybe he was contractually obligated because we all know the big thing about Fallout is the mustache gate. So I don't know if they were like, if you got Avengers, we don't want to cut off your mohawk and have Marvel calling on our door.
Henry Cavill's character. I would have actually liked to see him return in some capacity.
Me too.
He was really good.
He was.
He was just really good. Like he was just like, hey, like I'm gonna have to kill you. Like,
right.
Give me the word.
He says that's the job.
Yeah.
So he was just like, no hard feelings. Like I love working with you. You're a great coach,
but I'll kill you if the order's called.
Also, August Walker is one of the greatest character names of all time. Like it is
a pretty bad.
It's like straight from like Ian Fleming. Like it almost feels like a Bond girl name. It's like insane. It's just so good.
I'm a big Henry Cavill fan. He's my favorite Superman of all time, and I hate I don't want to bring up that can of worms of recasting, but I love Henry Cavill in this movie, Sharon and Griff. There's that scene when we get the moment where he talks to Lane and he's like, you just fucking everything. Like we've seen Henry Cavill play different roles in his career. Like that one garbage movie where he's like fighting gods and monsters. You can see he has, and also a very underrated spy film. I don't want to bring up his co-lead, but
The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Great.
I love Henry Cavill, and I'm excited to see what he does with is it Matthew Vaughn? They have another spy film coming out.
Argyle or whatever.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I just love August Walker in this film. I think Henry Cavill is perfect casting in this movie. He's great. He's great.
I didn't know on that. I mean,
Yeah. And I'm so glad you brought up the bathroom scene. When I was rewatching a couple weeks ago, I was on it. I've seen the film 10 times at this point, but I every time that scene pops up, I love it because you speak to it so they get their ass beat, and it also plays into the story because August, he uses the machine that they need to scan his face. He obviously knew that wasn't him, so he used it to obviously kind of mess up the mission to cover his his big reveal. So Griff, before I talk to you, Griff, where was this on the ranking for you, Sharana? Before we talk, top of the top, best of the best.
Only because any movie that can convince me to like Julia when I hate her,
the redemption, the arc.
I mean, it has a good redemption arc.
Yeah.
The thing I don't like about the movie is then when they try to implicate romantic feelings between Ilsa and Ethan.
Oh, and Ethan.
It's just like, but why do that? Because we didn't need to do that. Like, why go in that direction?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just. It's good. I mean, you can't save, like, you have to win. Like, these people are gonna die. Like Julia, then Ethan meeting her husband, then you figure they got married. Like, it's like it's just secrets. Like it just satisfied my little messy soul.
and I think you spoke to it earlier, Sharana. His biggest Achilles heel is at the beginning of the movie with him saving Luther. The plutonium, he gives it up because he couldn't let Luther die. Which is another reason, going back to our conversation last film, there's more reason for Luther to be like, that's my guy, ride or die all day, every day.
Every day. I couldn't remember because I was going to bring it up, but then I was like, is that Dead Reckoning? Because I literally watched all these movies all the way through again.
Yeah, same. So
yeah.
So I'm sorry, was it the best of the best for you, Sharana?
Yes, it is. I'm
okay.
What Griff thinks because I feel like
I'm so excited to hear.
Why? No, I'm not a psychopath. I love this movie. No. This is the best Mission Impossible. Like these movies don't get much better than this. That being said, I don't think they could do another one of these again. It was kind of just like a lightning in a bottle sort of thing, and I think we've seen that a little bit with what they try to do with Dead Reckoning, but yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I mean, this thing is just like it's explosive. It's like complete tonal contrast to Rogue Nation. It's a movie that is really it's action driven. I think it is a film constructed around set pieces more so than any of the previous ones. And they somehow managed to make it work in a way. There's like a really interesting tone going on here. The music by Lauren Balfe is like probably the best score, or at least one of the best scores in the entire series. Like it's just it's a film that really kind of takes Cruise and Macquarie's mentality of like trying to replicate the silent film era, like the Buster Keaton stuff that they talk about all the time, of like trying to create like these jaw-dropping set pieces that make you like care about stuff that's going on, that blow your mind, that is using the visual language of cinema to convey stuff. This film is like very it's like light on dialogue. The plot is very simple and straightforward. And I think that works for it in the long run. Like it's just like a very propulsive film. Like the Paris chase, I think is probably my favorite set piece in the film. That motorcycle chase, man, it's incredible. It just looks fucking gorgeous. Like this, I mean, this movie is genuinely beautiful. Like it was actually funny. So I figured out the scene, that whenever I got a new TV like not too long ago, and it's a 4K TV, and I also got a new like sound system, and so like when I wanted to test that stuff out, I played the Fallout Paris chase scene because it is such a beautiful looking scene, and it's just it's a great way to test all of that stuff, and so it's great. The helicopter stunt is like I still
helicopters. Tom Cruise.
Yeah, dude, it's insane. Like I still maintain that like the Burj Khalifa is like the most impressive set piece, but like that is just like an individual stunt. I mean, my God, like that's just like absolutely nutty stuff. So that's really good. The Halo jump is impressive for sure, even though that's nothing that we haven't necessarily seen before.
Sure.
But I think it is like it's a well done Halo jump.
Yeah, I love the score of that scene.
Yeah, the score is great. Everything with the White Widow is awesome. The weird premonitions are like kind of interesting. It feels like a holdover from like a previous draft, but yet they still find a way to kind of make it work. You're gonna kill me for this. The only thing that I don't like about this scene, and it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, is the scene where Luther tries to tell Ilsa to basically be like, don't get involved, you can't do this, don't like Ethan, like he's a good man, he's gonna do
to walk away or whatever.
Yeah, he tells her to like walk away, and it's like,
yeah,
dude, Luther, it's like she's literally like handicapped by MI6. She's an agent. She's not a civilian. And it's like she's
gonna be in it regardless.
Yeah, she's gonna be in it like regardless. It's like you trying to like guilt her into like being like, don't be selfish and like get out of here, like blah blah blah. It's just like,
Julia, like, and you want me to deal with you now?
Right, because he did train Julie. He's like, I ain't about to.
Okay, but that's the thing that like irks me. It's like, okay, so this highly skilled, highly qualified woman over here who is actually involved in spycraft, you're gonna be like, nah, you can't come. But like Julia, who's there, you're just gonna like up and let her help and be like, nah, I'm not gonna protest, whatever. It's just, I don't know. That's my one little just like nitpick of it. But I genuinely do like, this is. I don't know if you guys have ever actually watched the music only, the score only version of this film, but I almost feel like it plays better than like the regular version of the movie. It's kind of insane, but it's just like a great, like moody thing. It's one of the greatest action movies for sure.
Yeah, no, it's a really, really well crafted. Like you guys said, it's based on the set piece, just leads to the next, and the Paris chase scene shows the team again at work because it's so well put together. Because we also, again, going back to Ethan and just a character moment when he doesn't want to kill that police officer in the street and doesn't want to kill any of the people, and with the plan initially at hand was just to wipe out all the police officers and take Lane and move on. But he, pulled a Peyton Manning Omaha. He did an audible on that play, which was so cool. And also someone mentioned in the comment section. Let me see, but yeah. One of my favorite mask reveals is in this film where we find out that it was Benji that was impersonating Lane, which was a really cool scene. And we lose Alec Baldwin in that moment. But I don't want to leave out the fact, we talked about all these great sequences and action scenes and stunts. This was a stunt that actually almost postponed the film by like 8 months. He broke his ankle jumping from one building to the next. And I watched someone redid like a bunch of collages of his stunts, and he split it up, man. And commitment. What was that?
Didn't he still finish the tape?
Yeah, he did. He limps. Like that is like all part of, like they kept that in the film, that him like limping. Obviously, they cut after that part, and 8 months later they resumed filming. But yeah, man, this one was. I remember this one like in the theater because I think this is one of the few ones. I don't think they shot Dead Reckoning like an IMAX. Like I don't think they use IMAX.
No, Dead Reckoning was an IMAX.
Yeah, but I remember specifically with Fallout, like those huge IMAX, the Halo jump being one of them. The scene at the the third act, the helicopter. So I just love the theatrical experience with this one as well. And it stood out to me in that packed summer of a lot of, like I said, Black Panther, Infinity War. There's a lot of great stuff that year, and this was definitely one of the best. And if we're being honest, this might have been a great way, even though I'll talk about it next with Dead Reckoning. This could have been a way to end the franchise, for being honest. Yeah. Sure. And before we move on, are we all putting this on the best of the best?
Yeah.
Okay. And then personal rankings with you, Sharonda. Where is Fallout on your list?
1.
Number 1. What about you, Griff?
Yeah, it's 1.
I think we are all in agreement on this one, ladies and gentlemen. Number 1 as well. Which, spoiler alert, there's only one slot left for myself and Sharonda and Griff. So, did I miss one, Sharonda? You're this one here. Which one? Because we got 2.
Rogue Nation's number 2.
Okay, let me see Rogue Nation. So that I think, ladies and gentlemen, we all kind of know where we're headed to next. So this is gonna be fun. So this past weekend, as we all know, The most recent, the seventh film in the franchise, part one of a part two. We have Christopher McQuarrie back for the third time. $300+ million budget. We all know was affected by COVID restrictions and shutdowns. We all know the infamous tape out there of Tom Cruise yelling at some of the cast members. It's all as well documented. And this whole, and again, guys that are watching live, we've been spoiling all the movies, but this one is the most recent one. So this is a spoiler warning. We will be talking about some things about this film, so you have been warned. Who wants to go first between Griffin and Sharonda? Because I know both, based on our list, it's not that high. I might be the one that might have to defend it. This might be fun. Sharonda, do you want to go first? Who you want to take it, Sharonda?
What he should have been doing is yelling at Christopher, okay? Or what the hell was in the script? Okay? That's who he should take his time yelling at, all right? Because it makes no sense whatsoever to me. Okay, let's just start with the most egregious thing that happened. All right,
let's hear it.
Come up here and tell me.
Let's hear it.
He had a decision.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Somebody we just met that I don't give a damn about. She died, and I wouldn't have shed a tear or gave a flying rat's ass about her.
Okay. Yep.
Know where this key at?
Yes.
Just know where the actual thing is that they did not explain in the whole movie. That's a whole nother thing. She don't know nothing. She has no use to Ethan. Not one thing can she do except run away from him. No use. And you gonna tell me that Ilsa?
Hold on, put this. Those are spoilers. Ilsa? Yep.
Be the one to die? Somebody who just met that literally brings nothing to this franchise but a headache, watching her run away 10 times while he's trying to save this girl's life. Okay, it literally made no sense whatsoever. Also, too, let's talk about the plot hole of when she put the key in the passenger's pocket on the airplane, and we never saw her get the key back. That was a whole thing. He called it out that you put the key in his pocket so you can go back and get the key later, but we never actually saw Grace go back and get.
But wasn't that the counterfeit key?
No,
I thought it was a counterfeit because the guy in the airport that wasn't the key. They had the key. Ethan and the crew had the key, but she had a counterfeit. I thought
it's the real key. She had a counterfeit key, and she ended up taking it because then he had the lighter that was left.
Right.
Back and forth between them. Because that's why Gabriel tried to kill the dude who had her arrested. Okay,
I guess it was the deleted scene, Sharonda, when Ethan and him, when they get split up, when she goes to Rome, before the car. Yeah, it's a deleted scene somewhere. You're right. I'm just trying to. Yeah, I don't think that we did catch back up.
Where is the key that we never saw her go back?
Yeah.
Okay. Once again, Ethan got can someone just get him a paid maintenance person to come let him bust one out because falls in love with women after seeing them. It makes no sense to me. We just closed the loop on Julia. It's a movie. Okay. Well, we met her in 3, so 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Us to get rid of Julia. Okay. You just meet this woman, and now you're in love with someone who literally tried to run away from you every chance.
Is he in love? Are we? I don't know. He's in love.
He let Ilsa die.
He didn't let her die. He didn't willingly let her die.
The way we were sitting up here, and they were like, "Oh, well, the White Widow was you have to choose." I was like, "Oh, okay, so just kill Grace right now."
We know Ethan Hunt is gonna be all right, guys. You got me. Just shoot her in the head. We know he ain't gonna. I get what you're saying now. I know where you're coming.
It makes no sense. And then at the end, to say that Grace, who has literally done nothing but get on everybody's everlasting nerve, who is terrible at impersonating White Widow, who was terrible at even trying to get the damn key before her that fell to the ground. Then you recommend her to IMF?
She's a resource. She's a good thief. She's a good thief. She's a pickpocket. She's a pickpocket master.
Because she can pickpocket? Bring Nugget for all of that. If you need a pickpocket, bring Nugget.
She knows magic, Sharonda. And she's also Captain Britain or Captain Agent Carter.
We're not going to talk about about Luther, who just halfway through the movie, like, "Hey y'all, I gotta go off."
I gotta go.
He just leaves.
I gotta change my
He
clothes
just
over in
leaves.
the laundry.
My man
Yeah.
just left. Okay, he left. But you gonna tell me this girl didn't even want to go? She didn't even want to help you out on the train. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
At least wear the same clothes as White Widow. She didn't even have the same eye color as White Widow.
The eye color
that
really
was
threw me off. Yeah, that was.
wild.
I
Why
never
did they?
got that. Why they didn't change her
Yeah.
eyes? That was really weird.
That I was just like, now if I'm not even a nitpicker for details,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I caught things like the passenger on the plane.
yeah.
Like y'all didn't see this in post when you were trying to when you were putting this movie together. It just
4 years to make this movie.
and you missed that. That's
Yeah.
what you missed. It just and then the way that Ilsa died. How does Ilsa know Gabriel? Is Gabriel even real? I thought Gabriel was like a figment of our imagination from
He's a robot. I'm telling you, he is a robot. We're gonna find that out in part 8
yeah,
or
yeah.
the next one.
So the fact that the way that Ilsa died, I just pray that Ilsa's not dead because I just cannot
I
believe.
think she is, Sharonda. I think they killed her.
But he stabbed her in the heart. Like what?
He took Ethan's heart. Literally, it's poetic.
He didn't even care. He was worried about race. He worried about a girl that he just met over
Here's
save this man time after time after time again.
yeah.
Just in Ghost Protocol, not Ghost Protocol, just in Rogue Nation alone, how many times it goes to save his life? So it just that I just felt like how they did her character, like it set us back. The treatment of women, it like totally we were doing.
Oh, it's so weird.
It was baffling. Yeah, it's my worst. It's the worst part of the film for me is Elsa's death.
That's where I lost all interest. And my last thing to go, the whole thing with the AI that
the entity
we never get to.
They said 1,000 times.
Like we don't see it in the airport with Benji. We see it at the beginning with the missile with the submarine. And when it kind of glitches, and then Luther said, "I got to piece on out for the rest of the movie randomly." But I just felt like they needed to do more with actually making
100%
of what this technology could actually do.
Blow up a city, blow up a hospital full of kids. It should have been more like the Age of Ultron conversation. Like, why wasn't Ultron wreaking more havoc in that film?
3 hours retelling this story over and over and over. So much exposition. It didn't need to be 3 hours. We don't learn. We don't know anything more than what we did at the beginning of the movie. It's almost like this movie didn't even need to exist because we don't know what's happening. And then because we don't know what the hell the AI does, when Gabriel gets it, I was just like, okay, like that's fine. And then you have all these like agents. You had Carrie, Ill's character.
Yeah, he's the agent of like intelligence.
Yeah, I was like,
that turn was baffling. That was so out of nowhere. And was this from a previous draft or something?
Like, this is like we have to have some mole in the system that had to be revealed. From the first one.
It just felt like to go from Fallout. No, the train.
Yeah.
So people so much that like, I mean, it's cool because we know he did this. Like, he did 15 million takes of the scene, but I saw it. Like, really, it was just the train.
It was The train is the scene, not the jumping off the. No offense to Tom Cruise of months and years of planning out, but it happened so quick. It was like 2 seconds of him jumping off the cliff.
It's the same thing. It's the same issue I have with the underwater sequence in Rogue Nation. It's impressive that he did it for real, that he held his breath, but they keep cutting away from it. So it's like it loses all impact. Like if you wanted that like cliff jump to be like really like your standout thing, you show it like, in its entirety.
Ghost Protocol, show him. On, I agree. But Sharonda, I think you were leaning towards some positives. Is there any more positives, Sharonda, for you? The train.
It's a stunt. I mean,
Stunts,
the drifting on cobblestone. It's really hard to drift in general. So to drift cobblestone and those pathways was dope. And you can kind of, I think that's what makes the scene so funny because you can tell the car isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing.
It's supposed to be doing.
Like expressions and reactions from Haley and Tom, which makes
some good comedy. Yeah.
Hey, Jeremy. So yeah, and I think Tom Cruise actually brought good comedy. Normally, I always Simon, but he was actually
It's like I'm sorry, I don't normally perform this way or something like that.
It was good, but that's really it. I mean,
You didn't like the? I know it wasn't exciting, but no fans of the airport cat and mouse.
Oh my god,
attention scene?
dude. No.
And you actually
No.
to another kind of it. I like the airport scene, but the CIA agents are the most.
Oh, I was gonna. That's a negative to the
Like, Shay and Greg, I'm all
Dumb and Dumber. Yeah.
but like I would never hire y'all to
Yeah.
anyone down, let alone Ethan.
They're like fucking Looney Tunes.
They are. They tried to do because there's a what is it? Ghost Protocol. There's the cop chasing him throughout the film, and I think they tried, and that was like slapstick comedy to me. Yeah, I didn't like them. It's gonna play into part 8 or the next one because I think Shay has some connection to Ethan because they kept alluding to like I don't know him personally, but I think it's gonna tie into that girl that died at the beginning that Ethan knew from his past, who I don't think is dead.
With the girl that died, I was like,
yeah, that's that's definitely a part setting up the seeds for like I don't even know why that was in the film of this one.
Like, what did we? Okay. Like, you fell in love. Let me guess. You fell in love with someone else.
She fell in love. Another one on the belt.
The weird thing about Ethan is like he's such a sexless character, and like the movie is trying to make him like this Bond-like character where he's like having all these relationships and like just because of his occupation and everything, like he gets them into trouble and they wind up dying or whatever, and it's just like. That's like you've never really you've never like Ethan. I don't know. That's just not really Ethan Hunt. So it's just like a weird sort of thing to keep harping on with him. Like the fact that you're gonna like not only fridge Ilsa but fridge like another girl from his past is like so weird. It's like guys, you didn't have to do this. You didn't have to like jump into this like. That was going on.
That seems like such like a rewrite to me, Griff. Because if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't Nicholas Hoult casted as Gabriel, but then he wasn't able to do it because of the great and some other things that
yeah.
So obviously, there's a huge age discrepancy between the actors. So I feel like that whole backstory of Ethan was like a rewrite fourth quarter when they knew that Nicholas Hoult wasn't going to be able to play the villain because obviously Nicholas Hoult didn't know Ethan Hawke or Ethan 30 years ago because he wasn't even it's a baby. But go ahead.
Gotta get off the great because he losing a little bit too many like good parts.
He is a Batman, Superman. I think. Side note: I think he's gonna probably be the next Batman, but we'll see.
Yeah, and then also it's not even like Sharon. I think you covered like so much of the Ilsa stuff. It's like it's not even like that. That was like the moment where I just kind of saw myself like leave. Like just I lost all interest. It just really it soured everything. But like even before that, the treatment of Ilsa was just like abysmal. It was she doesn't do anything, and then when she's given something, they're like treating her like an addict who keeps like going back and going rogue, and it's like it's portrayed as something bad, but yet at the same time it's like Ethan, my guy, you've been going rogue for like the past 3 movies, so it's like why is it all of a sudden a bad thing when she's going rogue, and it's like, oh, you have to get her out of trouble now. And it's like, that's like so weird to me. Especially just given like the fact that the way McQuarrie established Ilsa and like her capability. And it's like that coupled with the fact that like she's barely in it. Yeah. Coupled with the fact that they just like kill her so unceremoniously. Yeah. And then literally replace her with like another brunette actress. And it's just like so fucking weird, man. And then it's just really one of the worst decisions I've seen in a movie like this that they just did not have to do. And it's not even the fact that they like chose to kill her. You can kill her and you can do it in a way that makes sense
in the movie.
Yeah, but she dies. There is no reason for her to die.
It's so uneventful at that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's a sword fight. Like what?
She had a sword. He had a little switchblade too. That was kind of like
lightsabers. What are we doing?
I don't know. And then like I really liked Paris. Like she was a fun henchman, but then like her turn at the end felt so abrupt, and it was like when she helped him,
and then she talked the whole movie.
She had a couple lines, and her
It
Yeah.
was just like one of those, I don't know about
Yeah.
that. And then I don't know if this is, my friend brought this up to me, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. But like the scene where like after Ilsa dies
Mhm.
and like Grace is in there and they're like telling her that it's like, no, she died so you could live, and then she's like,
Mhm.
we're gonna offer you a choice, but we're gonna tell you that you can either accept our offer or you
Or
can
just
go to
die.
prison or die.
Yeah.
And then it's like the whole thing plays like a cult induction, and it's like a ceremony, even to the point where like she puts on a mask and then looks in the mirror and it's like she's a completely new person. And like I get it's supposed to be like, oh, the adventure of
Yeah.
spycraft and whatnot, you
Mhm.
can change whoever you want to be and change your identity, but it just, I don't know. It felt like they were just like pulling upon like, you know, Cruise's Scientology things just a bit too much. Like a lot, dude. So much of this movie just felt like Scientology like crap. Like it was very strange. But yeah. I don't know. Have we talked about the AI yet? Like, because I think
Go ahead. The entity is the worst. I don't want to say MacGuffin. It's the villain of the film. It is literally
Yeah.
the villain of the film. Gabriel's just a henchman. He's a puppet
Yeah.
to the entity. Yeah, I'm go ahead. Take it
Well,
away, Griffin. It's very relevant. Obviously, we know
Sure.
AI is very much in the topic of conversation, and it is a scary prospect to understand. If technology gets in the wrong hands, it can be detrimental. But I
Yeah.
didn't like the entity at all. But
Yeah, I think where the broad concept of AI is topical, and I think that's, you know, is obviously an interesting avenue to go down for spycraft. But where it goes wrong is in making the AI the villain. Like
Yeah.
it's, you know, when if this AI is supposed to be this weapon of mass destruction or whatever, the film should be focusing on like the parties that are the antagonists that are trying to use that for nefarious intent, just like they would be with like nuclear weapons. Like when you're watching a movie where nuclear weapons are at play, the nukes aren't the bad guy. Like
Right.
the people trying to
Yeah.
use them for their own personal interests are the bad guys. And I think they kind of allude to it. Like I think the arms race thing with like all these countries trying to like
get it. Yeah.
control the AI, that was like definitely along the right idea. But to Sharonda's point, the AI just is not in the film nearly enough to really you know, leave much of an impact or really like have a grasp on this thing and like why it's so evil, because the way the film paints it is just like AI is simply evil for existing, which is not true, because AI isn't good or bad. It's very neutral. It's the people who use it. And I think that McQuarrie kind of misunderstands the dilemma we're facing, because he kind of paints it like, oh, the chat GPT and stuff we have today is going to like, you know, become Skynet. And it's just, and like that's, I think that was the other thing, is like that's such a tired trope that has been in fiction since like the 80s and 90s. And it's like
it's become self-aware.
I know. It's just like, oh God, really? Come on. Like we have, like there's so much that has changed in the world of like AI now. Like we have a more firm grasp on like what this thing is and what it can do and how people can exploit it for their own personal benefits. And yet we're still just resorting to like, no, this thing simply existing is bad. That's just like so, it's so lame to me. So that frustrated me. I gotta be honest, man. I wasn't super impressed with the set pieces. I really loved the opening on the submarine. I think that was a cool bit. I wish that wasn't the opening of this film. I think this should have been the opening of Dead Reckoning Part 2 for the reasons Sharonda said, because this thing happens and then we basically know the whole film.
We know what it is. They don't know. They're in the dark. We know what they.
Yeah,
well, we don't know all the.
Yeah, I mean, I hate playing. I hate when myself as a viewer am like ahead of the characters. That's just really frustrating. There are ways to do that, and I understand like part of it is just like, oh, the suspense of like, will they complete the mission? Will they get the key? Whatever. And it's like, oh, this is a Mission Impossible. We kind of know that they're going to get the key. It's like, we know they're going to complete the mission because Tom Cruise never fails, because Ethan Hunt is infallible. So it's like all these things kind of stacking up doesn't quite work for me. The film is way too long. The 2 hours and 40 some minutes.
Longest in the franchise.
I really felt the length. It didn't.
Walton
Yeah, it didn't.
franchise for no reason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for no reason. For
No
yeah,
reason, yeah.
for no reason. Oh,
Exposition took up a lot of the film. A
yeah,
lot of the
yeah.
talking
But
heads.
yeah, yeah. But going back to the action, like the airport sequence, I thought went on way too long. There wasn't really any suspense. Why Benji and Luther like refused to clue Ethan in on like
A
a
nuclear
nuke?
bomb.
It was just it was just for like plot purposes. Like I was just like, that's like why? That's like such a weird decision. And then it just keeps going and going. It's like, God damn, man. I swear to God, it's like a 20-minute sequence, even though like it probably isn't. But the Fiat chase throughout Rome is like fun enough, but
Yeah.
it's so weirdly structured. Like they get in a car, they get out, there's a little bit of downtime, they get in another car, they like, oh, they stop for a little bit. It's like a lot, it's very jolty. And so I don't feel like there's this I don't know. I never really feel like any danger for the characters just because it's like a constant start and stop. There's like quirky, like comedy at play there. It just, I don't know. That whole sequence just was so bizarrely constructed to me. Even like, Harris driving the big car, like that you're supposed to be barreling through cop cars. We don't even really like get to see that in its entirety. So, yeah, that was a little weird. And then the train stuff is great.
Yeah.
I do
Shout out to
like.
Uncharted.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a great Uncharted homage. The thing that holds it back is the CGI in those sequences. I actually think this is the one time in the series, maybe but then again, there was technical limitations in the earlier entries. But like, this is the first time in the series where they're like they're like selling it to us as like, we're doing this for real, like this is for real. And like, I know
Yeah,
that
they built the train and all that.
yeah, I know they did like that sequence for real within, reason, or I guess within like the parameters that they established, but like there were CGI extensions and you can really see it. And I think it kind of pulls me out of the action a bit. So that was unfortunate. I don't know. Like, again, a lot of my biggest issue is the Ilsa stuff and the handling of the women, and like Grace's, like, I like her as a new addition, like her being like it's like a second run at like his mentoree or mentee relationship with Lindsay Ferris. Yeah, from MI3. That's cool to get to see that again, to get to see like his younger self and like a younger student, I think is cool.
Sleep with her, not teach her. You want to sleep with her.
Well, that was literally what I was about to say next. I could not figure out what the fucking angle was. It was like, because the entire time there's like this weird sexual tension, but like but she's like supposed to be a student, but like, but not really. It's like, but then like Ilsa's in the mix, and it's like, don't you have a relationship with her? They're like, it is so all over the place in terms of like those relationships. So it's yeah. And I can't get over the fact that they would like kill Ilsa, literally replace her with just like another brunette actress. Yeah.
I'm not one to give excuses especially for a film that was shooting for over 4 years. But I texted Ron this when we talked about this, I think last week. I do think, and again, this is where behind the scenes may or may not be the case, but I do think Rebecca Ferguson being a part of Dune, as well as the sisterhood that they're doing with the Max show potentially, but also her new show on Apple, Silo, I think it's one of those cases where we were shooting this for 4 years, COVID restrictions, scheduling. I think, and I might be wrong, Christopher McQuarrie may not ever reveal this, but I think that they intended to kill her, but in the way that they did it might have been due to scheduling issues with her shooting those other two projects and various other things that maybe haven't been announced due to the strike. So that was my reasoning, especially in the second half, was that it was probably a scheduling thing. I think that she was meant to die in this movie. I really do think, because plot-wise, as we kind of allude to, going back to the government, leaving the government, going back, it kind of got played out. So I think narratively they were done with that character's story. And I do think she was meant to die, but I think the way that they handled it was poorly executed. And I think it was, I think it was due to scheduling, which also makes me think that going back to Nicholas Hoult recasting to an older actor, the entity I think would have maybe played a little bit better if it was like created by, let's just say, a Nicholas Hoult younger guy who relies on tech and uses tech to their advantage, because that's what they rely on as a younger generation. We all love our technology and whatnot. So I think it would have played better if it was maybe it was a character behind it versus the AI controlling a human and giving out orders and whatnot. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, again, I don't want to make excuses, but I think the 4 year gap and some of the rewriting and the scheduling might have hindered this film in a lot of different ways. But yeah, killing Elsa is a sin on so many levels with this film, to the level that they did it at. But I'll try to defend this film because I did enjoy it, especially on the second rewatch. 'Cause I think for me on the second rewatch, I had my issue with the plot, but then I was enjoying. I love that. It was a little bit long, but I did love that cat and mouse game at the airport. I thought that was just like a fun way to kind of bring it back to the old school ways of part one. Because this film does have, like Sharana mentioned earlier, there's a lot of homages throughout this franchise. This one had some moments of part one. Ethan using his magic trick that we haven't seen since part one with the key and him talking to, Grace's character. I think of the rehashing. I know I said Uncharted, but it is very much like a 2023 version of the airplane, the helicopter and the train sequence in part one, but obviously bigger budget, different stakes. So there was like moments and I'm like, I really like them kind of leaning more on the old school stuff that we got in the franchise. And I love the train sequence at the end of the film. The jump off the cliff, I wish there was more to it, especially the build up, but I do love the actual sequence on the train. So I just think for me, plot is not as integral, cerebral, detailed as the previous Mission films. Action not as nearly as high, obtained, crazy, thrilling as Fallout. But I think on my second rewatch, I just knowing all the issues I had with it, I didn't ignore it, but I was on the mission my second go around. That really made me kind of enjoy it a little bit more than I did the first time. Now, have you guys, not saying that if you watch it 2-3 more times, you might enjoy it more, but have you guys just seen it the one time or have you seen it twice, 3 times at this point, Sharon or Griff?
I've seen it twice.
You've seen it, so I guess you.
I liked it less the second time, actually.
Gotcha. It's right. I know it was a long, and I know you're crazy schedule and busy. Have you got a chance to see the second time or just the one time? Yeah.
I'll watch it again on a rewatch. I'll watch it before the next one.
Yeah. I got you. Well, based on that, as our last film, Sharonda, on our list of the best, the great, the solid, the not so great, the very bad, Mission Impossible Fallout, Sharonda, where does it fall for you?
I'm fine with very bad or even not so great. I'm fine with either or. I'll live.
Ooh, okay. Griff?
No, I think I do. I'm gonna say it's very bad because I can't in good conscience see MI2 over it, or sorry, below it.
Okay, so. Interesting. So Sharana, yours was either very bad, not so great. I'm at a solid mission, but I think Griff's very bad brings it to this not so great mission, just kind of even it out. Which I have my faults as you guys mentioned. I just think I might have enjoyed it just a little bit more than you guys, which I guess that brings us to our last portion. Obviously, we know where. So we got for Sharonda, this will be your number 6 film.
Yeah, can we bring up a good point about this though? Because
go for it.
You think about what came out when Fallout was out. That was just like a great year for movies, right? And I think that ever since the pandemic, it's like something just switched. Because I can't even say Top Gun Maverick because that was made before the pandemic had even happened, So it's just something that because people were so starved for movies and because people were rushing to get stuff out because they didn't know if their production was going to get shut down the next day, I just feel like there's been a disconnect on what makes a good film. I actually said in my review, I feel like when people go back and watch Dead Reckoning a couple of years from now, it's going to be like an MI2 situation all over again. I think that because movies have been so bad, not even like bad, but they're just
mediocre, very undercooked, underdeveloped.
So I think that's why people love it so much because even at its worst, it's still better.
It's still better than what we're
Well, I think to your point, I think the big thing with this is people really appreciate that they do it for real. It's like Tom Cruise is like risking his life.
That's been the topic of conversation this whole summer. Is visual effects have not been the greatest, and of that whole conversation. But yeah, go ahead.
But at the same time, like, if you like, it's like, at least, and this is just for me, it's like, okay, that's cool if you do it for real. That makes it like that adds to the immersion. It adds to like the everything like that. But just because you do it for real does not make your movie better, because the most important thing in a movie is narrative, is your story, is the characters, is the emotions, and doing it for real can help that. But it's not an automatic like, oh, this is better than everything else just because they did it for real. Just like, you know, using visual effects in green screen and CGI is a bad thing, because we've seen that done incredibly well, whether it's like in the Matt Reeves Apes films or like whatever. So like, it's not like them doing stunts for real really shouldn't have too much of a bearing on like whether a movie is good or bad. It should be a component that assists like a positive take on the on the film or something like that. So also the other thing that'll say is, this film is severely hindered by the fact that it is a part one. It does not feel like a, like, I know Macquarie was like, oh, this is like its own movie. It kind of feels like that. But when you compare it to like Across the Spider-Verse, even Dune Part 1, movies where like you felt like a sense of finality while setting up what comes next, this does not really have any of that. I'm kind of just like left with I don't really know what to do here. What was your story other than getting the key? There's no payoff, there's no like character resolution, there's no growth. It just kind of like it ends.
Why even do a two-parter? We just came off of a whole like
trilogy essentially.
I mean,
why even go another two-parter?
Yeah.
There's no
like for a moment. Just give us a random film.
Yeah. I think that like just watching this movie, I have no idea what Macquarie has in store for part 2, but I'm like, dude, someone should have just taken his pen away at some point, because it just feels like he wrote too much and he didn't know how to condense it down.
I don't know if it'll ever come out. I do think that there are definitely some major rewrites with this film within that, because it's almost like you think when you have 4 years to craft something, that would probably be the best product you could think of. But I think that 4 years probably hindered the film with just tinkering. And again, I do think that Nicholas Hoult of the angle, I know they haven't came out and said that, you know, that's probably a detriment to the film, but I do think what they were going to probably do with a younger villain who's younger than Ethan would have played a little bit better into the entity. Probably would have been resolved in a part 1, and then part 2 is finding the person behind the entity. Would have been, you know, particularly Gabriel or whoever Nicholas Hoult would have played in that film. I wonder if that'll ever come out, as far as like what was the initial plan with the younger villain, and maybe the plot may have been a little bit different with some rewrites and scheduling issues that we kind of brought up.
If people would have actually criticized the movie, it would, because then they would have to defend their decisions. But
it's to Sharonda's point, I think it's what is a 97, the highest.
I mean, that's insane to me.
The highest rated film in the franchise.
It's crazy because there's so many issues.
Yeah,
you love a movie, but I just feel like from a critical standpoint, if you get into the story, if you look at the screenplay, we're talking about so many plot holes between keys. Like,
it's just not as clean as the others.
Yeah, it's just, I could literally pick everything apart about this movie, and I have valid point. It might not change whether or not how you feel about the movie.
Right.
That's why I feel like it's gonna be one of those movies. It's kind of like how I talk about Thor: Love and Thunder. One of those movies that at that moment you were so starved for content,
for Marvel and the whole fun of like summer blockbuster.
But then a couple of years go back. You're just like, this don't even make sense. Like,
Question for you both though, hypothetically speaking, what if, and it's rare, but again, knowing that it is a part 1 of a part 2, could a part 2 make this a better film?
No.
If anything,
clean up the mistakes.
It's gonna make it even more pointless. Because let's say knock it out in the park for part 2, right? I just think that then it just solidifies that you didn't need part 1.
Yeah.
Because they're nowhere further than where they were when the movie first began. The difference between are just together.
What if they bring back, you know, Rebecca Ferguson? She's not dead, because of someone under a mask, and then we find out Luther was fighting like Age of Ultron what is it? Jarvis was fighting Ultron the whole time. We find out that the reason why the entity wasn't reckoning things is because Luthor was secretly, fighting this virus that we didn't know about when we released the movie halfway through the third act.
He works on a cure when you have to get to the actual submarine to get to its core.
Yeah, to the source code of things. What they were. Yeah.
Like if no one knows where it is,
yeah,
Ethan and them are gonna have to work together. But like once again, it makes everything that happened in part one pointless because we have to start all over again.
I hope for part 8, I keep saying part 8, part 2, Mission Impossible 8, I hope the entity does do whatever it's capable of doing. And I saw this on Twitter a couple weeks ago. I wish I would have saved it if I give them credit, but someone had mentioned there's a promotional shot when they first showed the trailer of Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie on like 2 airplanes, fighter planes, like old school airplanes that they're shooting to be a part of the next film. Someone has said, what if the entity takes out all the technology that they rely on, and we got to go old school, and we got to use analog planes. We can't use technology to figure out things. So we're going back to like a square one level. Would that be something you guys would be interested in seeing? Them not relying, Benji, Luther, obviously Ethan, they can't use tech because the entity has like infiltrated all elements of tech. So they got to go bare bone, old school, spy, gear.
In this movie.
She did it in this movie?
Yeah, because you know that there has to be stakes. There's no stakes in this. No one knows where the submarine is but Gabriel. You don't learn that until the end of the movie.
Yeah.
The idea of like having them have to use analog to fight AI, like I think it's a cool concept in theory, but again, it's just sort of like, why is the villain just an AI? Like it just like that's so lame. It almost feels like your technophobic like grandpa who like watches too much like I don't know, Fox News or something.
Hey, it's the Top Gun thing, because that was the whole plot of like being taken over by the drones, and Maverick's like, we're here to fight and we need to be in the cockpit to fight these enemies.
Yeah, so here's what I'll say. It works in Top Gun Maverick because the automation is being used to directly displace people out of work.
Yeah.
There's no establishing that here. It's just sort of this nebulous, like, oh, the AI is evil.
Yeah,
why is it evil?
More spies. We're just going to use robots.
Well,
which might be the case. I think Gabriel's going to be a robot.
Yeah, if they're trying to replace the IMF with this entity, then there is like an interesting angle there. But that's never established in this film. It's just entity, evil, that's it. And
there's actually a good document on Killer Robots about how they actually talk about the government's use of AI and how it can be detrimental to like kind of the military institution.
Yeah.
Certain things that like a human needs to be able to like intervene on and use kind of like that quick decision making.
Yeah.
And honestly, they could have just utilized that.
Yeah.
And like
100%.
In like a World War III, like
yeah.
Fingers and everybody, but they just don't take the time to actually do it. I think they actually didn't they introduce something like this? Oh no, I'm thinking about Secret Invasion. Sorry.
Which I don't know why people are.
Plot from Secret Invasion.
Yeah. What I will say this about the entity: there's 3 scenes that, to me, executed what the fear could have been. The scene being the submarine, like the whole fake out of like not knowing where it is, and then obviously the airport where he can deflect Gabriel. But the scene where Benji thinks he's talking, Ethan thinks Benji's talking to him. That's scary to think of. That AI and also the bomb in the airport, which, if I'm not mistaken, was the bomb in the airport to illustrate the entity used Benji to answer questions, to use Benji's voice to fake out Ethan to make it think that was him. Was that a tie-in there?
It's to learn it.
Yeah, he's learning his voice and to mock his voice. So, like that's fearful. That is something I think they should have leaned on more as the entity. Faking out Ethan, he thinks he has Gabriel, but it's really the entity. Like they should have really leaned on the paranoia of technology really disrupting the plan. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
See, I think
if it had to be like we all go off the grid, like kind of in they do that in Rogue Nation.
Right, they have to kind of
everybody go do your own thing. Like
right.
Go. I mean, it's just, yeah. I really want us to just be more critical about stuff. Like,
I agree.
I love like fun action, but when you're in movies like Mission Impossible, when
Yeah,
you're,
there's another level to it as far as yeah,
it's the story has to make sense. If
yeah,
Yeah.
we already let it slide with the terrible villains in both franchises,
yeah, yeah.
the story doesn't make sense. Like, it's kind of hard to even get into the movie, and especially when you're just making crazy choices. If Elsa couldn't be there, she didn't need to be in the
She
movie.
didn't need to be in the film. I agree with you,
Yeah.
Sharonda. I
Yeah. She
agree.
didn't need to
I
be there.
agree.
Tired, and then
Have her doing another mission. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree.
so I mean, it's just it's lazy.
Yeah,
This movie was lazy. If you told me you worked on a movie for 4 years
4 years.
you would find plot holes, you got color context that's different, like a whole key plot point of getting this key back that you never followed through on, that
Yeah.
is lazy to me. I'm sorry. I should not be able to pick something like that out because I'm not even somebody that will be. I'm not even someone that pays attention to detail to that level. I
Sure.
wouldn't even do that, but it was just so obvious.
So blatantly, yeah. I
Right?
agree.
When I
There's
think,
a
oh, they didn't do that.
yeah.
Like they're thinking their audience is dumb, so they're
I
like,
agree.
oh, they're not going to be able to figure this out. It don't
So
make
much going on.
Yeah.
We need the extended cut maybe to answer. No, I'm joking. This is already a long film. Yeah, I think Sharon and Griff. I think you guys said it perfectly. I think we're in a state of films where we're like, we've been so used to the last few years of just like accepting movies because we haven't had it, and we're just happy to be back in the theaters. We're happy to get these big blockbuster films, but they just the attention to detail, especially with this franchise, which as going back to it, there's a lot of fun to be had, but there's a level to these films. Like I know a lot of people are comparing this to like a lot of people are saying it's like a Fast and Furious version of Mission
Yeah.
Impossible, which
I agree with
there
that.
is some to yeah, there is
agree with that.
definitely a level of that I agree there. Definitely doesn't dumb it down completely to those levels of Fast and Furious and Dominic Toretto and all them, but this is definitely from the level as you guys said perfectly from coming from Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, Fallout, and then it just literally kind of takes a jump off the cliff. But hey, I'm hopeful that McQuarrie, Cruz, they save the best for the next one, maybe. Hopefully, a little optimism. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
But before we wrap it up, just a recap for you all at home and watching the replay. You get our individual list, which I'm sure Sharonda will share on her social media accounts and Griff on his. But just to recap, Pay Your Way Sharonda, her number one was Fallout, 2 Rogue Nation, 3 was the original. Ghost Protocol was her number 4. 3 was her 5, and the most recent one, Dead Reckoning, was her 6, and number 7 was 2. Toss it to my man Griffin from Film Speak. His number 1 was Fallout. Number 2 was the OG. 3 was Ghost Protocol. 4 was Mission Impossible 3. 5 was 2. 6 was Rogue Nation. Breaks my heart, Griff. And then 7 was Dead Reckoning, and then y'all can see my list as well. So, man, Sharon and Griff, I said it up top, man. This is just such an honor to be here with you guys both because, again, how many years ago that was, being on a panel with you guys on Griff's channel and being introduced. I knew of Sharon prior to that, but being on the same panel was just so fun to me. And obviously, years later, got a chance to meet Sharonda. Hopefully, we can meet again in person. I'm waiting to meet Griff one of these days in person, live action. But if I haven't said enough, Griff and Sharonda, you two are some of my favorite content creators on the platform. Not just because you're informative, fun, very insightful, but you're two wonderful people as well. So this was just so much fun to have you guys both on tonight to talk about this. And based on not to make a joke of it, based on the strikes going on, there might be some other tier lists I might be having in the future because we might not be able to talk about newer films, rightfully so, with everything going on. But if we do something like this again, I would love to have you two back on to take a deep dive on some other friend. Maybe we'll do Fast and Furious. No, I'm joking. But
Man.
Griff, I'm gonna toss it to you first, man. Thank you again for joining us tonight.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? What is the next excellent video essay breakdown that we can expect on Film Speak?
Yeah, dude, thank you so much for having me. It's always a great time to come over here, talk about movies, air out my really horrible takes. It's fine. It's great. But yeah, you can head on over to the Film Speak channel if you want more like video essay type content. You can follow me on Twitter at Griff Schiller. The next video should be on Dead Reckoning Part 1. I'll probably have my thoughts on that within the next day or so, and it'll be more eloquently put than I have put it here. But if you tuned into this, then you got a nice tease to that upcoming video. After that, I've got like a couple of editorials, one on like Barbenheimer, and then Barbie and Oppenheimer respectively, and all that good stuff. So if you want to keep up to date with that, you can head on over to the Film Speak channel.
Yeah, man, we're in for a nice few weeks with some of these new releases that I'm excited to hear Griffin's thoughts on. Sharonda, always a great time to see you. I am so excited to see the next live stream you have, because they're always some of the best lives, and of course your breakdowns are incredible. So again, thank you for joining us tonight. Where can people find you, and what is the next review live stream? I know interviews are on hold for a bit, but where can people find you, and what's next for Pay or Wait? Oh, I think you might be muted, Sharonda.
Oh, user error. I actually have a lot of interviews that were done before the strike happened, so I actually have a ton of interviews to still release that are coming out. Reviews, Hijack, one of the best shows on TV right now. If you are not watching Hijack,
I need to watch it.
Now,
yeah,
it's really good. I binged the entire series in a day. But they're like week-to-week episodes, so you can still catch up before the finale. But yeah, I have Hijack, some crazy show called Fatal Seduction that my audience has me watching, and Survival of the Thickest, Barbie, Oppenheimer reviews are all coming this week.
Awesome. And is one of those reviews too, Sharonda? What the freaking Tyrone? The clone Tyrone? I know you went to like a
I will have a review and an interview with the cast.
Ooh, I'm excited. I just saw that a couple days ago, and really excited to see your thoughts on it. I had a lot of fun with it. But listen, Griff, Sharonda, again, thank you. I am so appreciative of you both. I'm so just glad to be in the same space as you all. Congratulations, Griff and Sharonda, on the amazing growth on both your platforms. I feel like a super fan seeing you guys just continue to grow and prosper and many more great things in you guys' future. So again, you guys are awesome. For those that stuck around at the beginning of the stream, thank you so much for watching. Before you leave, like, share, comment, subscribe to these great people. The links can be found in the description of this video. And those watching the replay, hey, if you watch this whole thing, you're the real MVP. Leave your rankings in the comments, your tier list in the comments. I'm going to try to read them as often as I can and reply to them, because I really appreciate you guys interacting with the video. So with that being said, keep an eye out for some content later in the week. Still trying to figure out what critics can say or not say about film, so hopefully we'll have some clarification on that sooner than later, because I do have reviews that's already shot for the Clone Tyrone and seeing Haunted Mansion tomorrow, and Oppenheimer and Barbie, and Talk to Me later this week. So it's a lot of stuff to be excited for. We're just trying to figure out what can be put out there. So with all that being said, you all have been great. We'll catch you on the next video.